It really is a California. Yeah, it's just. You leave Jerry by himself? Oh, Jerry. I like it.
It's all right. I'm all right. How about yourself?
All right. We welcome to the Cordova Recreation and Park District Board meeting. Today is Wednesday, September 19. So, is it
Yes,
roll
thank
call?
you. We would like to welcome Nina Seiner to the podium to do our pledge, and then afterwards, we will be doing a moment of silence.
Thank you.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us stand for a moment of silence for the fallen Sacramento County Deputy, Mark Stuzia. Thank you.
Come on up. We're going to come on up. Good evening, Board of Directors. Tonight, I'd like to introduce Nina Seiner. She's our new Recreation Supervisor over at the Mather Sports Complex. I'm going to name it Complex someday, but it's still a center. Mather Sports Center. Someday it's going to be Complex or something different. So Nina comes to the district with 15 years of experience in local government, with the last 5 years as a recreation supervisor at Feather River Recreation and Park District in Oroville. She was responsible for youth and adult sports, aquatics, classes, facility rentals, gymnastics, department budgets, and development of policies and procedures. She has experience partnering with other government agencies and community-based organizations, and she also supervised full-time and up to 80 part-time staff. She has a bachelor's degree in psychology from California State University, Chico. So we're extremely excited to have Nina on board. She's hit the ground running. I've thrown her a million different things already. She's handling them all great. So her main focus right now is field rentals, because we are still down a recreation coordinator Jason, who was doing the field rentals so her main job right now is getting the field rentals back up and running, as well as she's learning the ropes at Mather and the sports center. And then, like I said, everything else we throw at her. So please welcome Nina to our team. So excited to have her.
Welcome, Nina, welcome.
I just wanted to say thanks. I'm excited to be here. It's been a great first month, and I'm excited to be a part of this team and get some things accomplished. So thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Well, welcome. And it's nice to know that you've been with us for a month and you're still here. All right. So let's move on. Roll call, please.
Thank you. We were notified that Director Sloan would be arriving a little bit late this evening.
Thank you.
Director Lineback,
Here.
Secretary Danzel,
Here.
Vice Chair Yearwood,
Here.
and Chair Reyes.
Here. Thank you. We will now be open for any board disclosures on any action items Have any of our directors anything to say to that? Okay, none. So we will move on to item B, which is comments by the public.
Thank you, Chair Reyes. Members of the public may address the board on district topics not listed on this agenda. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. It is a violation of state law for the board to discuss or take action on non-agenda items. Board members may only briefly ask clarifying questions or refer the matter to staff. And I do have one speaker card. I'd like to welcome to the podium Ryan Brown, who's with our PMRID Oversight Committee.
Welcome, Ryan.
Wonderful, thank you so much. So as Danielle said, I'm a member of the PMRID My Parks Oversight Committee representing Zone B, Rosemont and Larchmont. And I'm here, number one, to introduce myself to the board and hopefully get to know each of you as we go forward. But I'm primarily here to issue a note of thanks to our district staff, especially Patrick Larkin and Matt Goodell, for preparing our most recent finance report, which I think really excels beyond anything I've seen in the aspects of not only transparency, but also accountability. And so I wanted to express my appreciation to that to the entire board. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And also thank you for representing us and the community of Rosemont. Hopefully, we'll be able to make sure that through you, they know what is happening in Cordova Recs and Parks District. Thank you. All right, we will now move on to consent calendar.
Thank you, Chair Reyes. Consent calendar items are considered administratively routine and will be acted upon in one motion unless separate action on a specific item is necessary. The chairperson will consider any requests for discussion on the items prior to approval of the consent calendar. And this evening, we have 5 items for your consideration. Item C1 is to approve the minutes of the regular meeting on July 18th, 2018, and this item was continued from the last board meeting. Item C2 is to approve the minutes of the regular meeting from August 15th, 2018. Item C3 is the district financial report for June 2018. Item C4 is the district financial report for July 2018. And item C5 is to approve the claims report for fiscal year 2017-18.
Thank you. So we have 5 items on the consent calendar, and I would like to ask if any staff or directors would like to pull an item for further discussion or action.
Chair Reyes, I'd like to pull items C1 and C2 for separate votes, please.
Thank you. Okay, so we are going to pull item C1 and C2 for separate votes. Do I have any motion or questions on C3, 4, and 5? Thank you. Okay, so
I move that the Board of Directors approve consent items C3, 4, and 5.
moved by Director Lineback and seconded by Secretary Danzel. Roll call.
Dr. Lineback,
Aye.
Secretary Danzel,
Aye.
Vice Chair Yearwood,
Aye.
Chair Reyes,
Aye.
and Director Sloan is absent.
Thank you. All right, so what we are going to do now is I need a motion to approve item C1 or any questions on it from the board. All right.
I'll make a motion that we approve consent calendar item C1.
Moved by Vice Chair Yearwood,
Second.
seconded by Secretary Danzel. Roll call vote.
Director Lineback,
Abstain.
Secretary Danzel,
Aye.
Vice Chair Yearwood,
Aye.
Chair Reyes,
Aye.
and Director Sloan is absent.
Oh, Miss
Director
Director
Sloan
Sloan
is
is here. Perfect timing, Director Sloan, because we do need you. This is wonderful. Director Sloan, we are currently on the consent calendar. We have a pulled item, which is item C2, which is the approval of minutes of regular meeting of the Board of Directors for August 15th, 2018. And so now I will entertain a motion.
I move that the Board of Directors approve the minutes of the regular meeting of the Board of Directors on 8/15/18.
Moved by Director Lineback, seconded by Director Sloan. Thank you. Seconded by Director Sloan. All roll call vote.
Director Lineback,
Aye.
Director Sloan. Secretary Danzel,
Abstain.
Vice Chair Yearwood,
Abstain.
and Chair Reyes.
Aye. And that's why I said we needed Sloan. Perfect timing, Sloan, or we would have had to wait. All right, thank you very much. So let's move on to committee reports.
Thank you. Item D1 is a standing committee report for Budget and Finance on August 27th, 2018, with Chair Reyes and Director Lineback.
Thank you. Director Lineback, would you like to start with
Okay, I'm
the committee?
happy to start. First, we were presented with the draft fiscal year 17-18 claims report, which you have the final version of in your current board packet. And that gave rise to a discussion about how frequently should the board be receiving these claims reports. The law requires that the board be informed of all claims in a given year. And this report does that, and it complies with the law. However, there was some discussion about having this be a little more frequent so that we're not looking at an entire year's worth of data some months after the close of the fiscal year, and that it might make more sense to have this report more frequently. So the discussion was about whether we wanted to see this claims report monthly or quarterly. It is fortunately a report that the accounting software produces, so it's not labor intensive for the staff to produce this report. That's really the question, wasn't really resolved in that committee meeting, and it's more a sense of the board about whether you think the annual report is okay, whether you'd like to just see it as the year rolls along every month, or perhaps a little less frequently, quarterly, to see these claims reports. You're going to have to see them ultimately. So it's really just a question of when you see them. Personally, I find the annual report to be exceptionally long. I think it was somewhere around 17 pages of just vendor name, vendor amount, vendor name, vendor amount. So, and I would prefer to see a more frequent report. I'm sort of neutral on whether it's monthly or quarterly.
Yes, and we did have that discussion. Thank you, Director Lineback. And we were saying that initially, and I know Matt has done this, is that we were going to have it monthly. But after discussion, and we were saying, hey, maybe it might be better to do it quarterly so that we get enough of the claims show up and we can look at it and understand it and not need it every month. So do any of you directors have a preference? At this time, our committee is recommending quarterly, as I have it in my notes here.
Yeah.
Sure is. I would agree with that. And if for some reason, if it's still at that point overwhelming, I say then we
Yes.
can move to the monthly. But I say let's downsize. And then if we need to downsize again, then we do that. But I say we try the quarterly.
Okay, so in that respect, you will notice that Matt has produced a monthly claims report here, and that let's try it quarterly, and then if we see that, oh, maybe it should be twice a year or annual, or go back to every 2 months. But at least quarterly will be able to give us a little more of how these expenses are spread out. All right, that's great. That was the discussion. The other discussion that we had was on the district fee schedule. We went with it, staff provided us with almost, detailed information. It's definitely been with benchmarks with other parks and recs and other providers. And I believe it's on the agenda today as an action item to be approved. So what we would like to do is, we do know that staff has done an excellent job on this. We did ask our questions, and we feel that what they're going to present to you will be something that then you can ask if there's much more that you have questions about, and we'll deal with it at the action item time. And I think that was it. Is there one more?
Just briefly, there's a slight difference in the financial reporting. So if you look at the annual financial report that was in the board package, it showed that contingency page, which didn't prove to be very helpful throughout last year. So you will not be seeing that report going forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Lineback, for remembering that. All right, so with that, we will move on to the public hearing.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair Reyes. Item E1 is a public hearing to adopt Resolution 18/19-22, approving the district fee schedule for the Cordova Recreation and Park District.
Thank you. So at this time, I will open the public hearing. It is 6:46 p.m.
And we'd like to welcome to the podium Superintendent Jill Nuns.
Good
to
evening
present on
again,
the item. Yes.
Board of Directors. I'm excited tonight to present to you the fee schedule.
Hard work.
It's taken us about a year to get here. I've been here about a year and 1 month, so almost my entire time here. But it is now here, and we are ready to present it to you. So just to give you some information, a hearing did go out in the grapevine for August 31st and September 7th. And then just like Chair Reyes said and Director Leinbach, we did meet with the Finance Committee to discuss this as well. So in front of you is a resolution to adopt and approve the district fee schedule. I'd like to go over a few highlights, and then obviously I can answer questions afterwards. So like I said, we have been collecting the data for the fee schedule. It took us about a year to pull this together. We worked hard on gathering the information, benchmarking 7 other agencies around the Sacramento area. We looked at our current fees, our services, and then we thought about our future programs and what we might want to charge for those programs as well. So you'll see that in Exhibit A, which is in front of you. Overall, the cost recovery for our programs and services is about what we're expecting. However, there are some areas where we believe we are below market. So we're asking for those fees, to increase just slightly. There also may be some other fees that are below market, but right now, the goal for this year was for us to initiate this fee schedule, get it out to you, and then, it's a record of our fees. So from here, every year, we'll take a look at those fees, make sure we're still in line, and either make recommendations to increase it or decrease it, and we'll go from there. But this is a really great start for us. So again, we'll continue to analyze our programs and our services and determine if any changes need to be made in the future. So the district fee schedule chart that's in front of you, again, Exhibit A, shows you the fees that we charge for the district. Please note that there is a correction to the fee schedule that you guys have on page 3, about 17 lines down, a little bit above halfway. The recommended fee for youth programs for field trips is supposed to be $300, not $100. So we'll make sure that this change is reflected when the fee schedule is posted on our website. All right, so in that fee schedule, you'll see we have current fees listed and then recommended fees. So we have the area, we have the location, the activity, current fees, and then the recommended fees. Let's see, the changes in fees that are highlighted in the salmon colored, those are changes. So those are fee changes that we're recommending. The new fees are highlighted in the blue colored cells. All of the other ones are the current fees, and we are not looking to change any of those current fees at this time. Some program areas you'll see have a flat rate and some have ranges. For those ranges, we will have fee sheets. We're going to call them like a 1-sheet fee sheet for each one of those program areas. And those program areas, it'll show exactly what those ranges are. from whatever the start is to the finish, and it'll explain why there's a range of, $100 to $300. It's probably because we charge $100 for 1 hour and, $300 for 2 hours, so forth and so on. Okay. The range of fees will also help us for future programming that we haven't yet tapped into. This will allow staff to be creative with pricing to ensure we continue to offer quality programs. Any adjustments of new fees or fees that are modified by 20% or more and fees proposed to be eliminated would be presented to the board for approval. Modifications to existing fees of less than 20% would be presented to the district administrator for approval for the same process. And then the district administrator will also have the authority to waive or reduce program facility fees as deemed appropriate. So with that, that's the conclusion of my presentation.
Directors, do we have any questions, comments? Oh, wait first. Wait first. I've got to get my orange.
Good.
All right, so at this time, I would like to invite the public to comment. Do we have any public comments? Seeing none, we will go ahead and close the public hearing, and the time is 6:51. And now it is time to ask my board members. Are there any questions from the board?
I have a
Director Sloan.
small question.
Yes.
You said you compared this to other districts and other agencies. Could I just have that list so I could,
Do you want it right now?
sure, you said 6 or 7?
Yep,
different ones?
Consumnes CSD, Southgate, Sunrise, West Sac, El Dorado Hills, Woodland, and Folsom. And then, of course, because I worked for the city of Sacramento, we kind of went off the city of Sac if it pertained to the fees that we have. But those were the 7 main ones.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, then what I will do at this point is I would like to call for a motion. Director Lineback?
I move the Board of Directors adopt Resolution 18/19-22, approving the district fee schedule for the Cordova Recreation and Park District.
Moved by Director Lineback, seconded by
I'll second.
Vice Chair Yearwood. Yearwood, all those in favor, roll call vote.
And this will be as amended, noted.
As amended, the $300
Yeah.
there, yes, noted, as amended. Thank you very much, Clerk.
Director Lineback,
Aye.
Director Sloan,
Aye.
Secretary Danzel,
Aye.
Vice Chair Yearwood,
Aye.
and Chair Reyes.
Aye.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Appreciate
A
it.
lot of hard work. I mean, pages of each and every one of this, it was a year. To you and the staff that worked with you, kudos, very, very well done. A lot of hard work.
I'll let them know. Thank you.
Yes. All right, thank you. So now we will move on to presentations.
Thank you, Chair Reyes. Item F1 is a presentation by the Cordova Community Council on the 2018 4th of July celebration. This is an informative presentation only, no action to be taken by the Board of Directors. And I'd like to welcome to the podium Shelley Blanchard.
Hello, Shelley. Hello, hello.
Nice to be back.
Yes.
Feels like I was just here 15 minutes ago to ask, could we do this?
Isn't that something?
And now I
It's
barely
true.
starting to recover and think ahead about next year's great 4th of July
Yeah. Yes.
celebration. So I'm wanted to start out to say thank you to everybody at the podium and your wonderful staff that contributed to another really successful 4th of July that set a bunch of records for us. I provided you a lot of detail. I'm not going to, I assume you can all read, and you'll digest as you wish. But I did want to kind of pull out some fun numbers from this little thing we put together called Rancho Cordova 4th of July by the numbers, because even I am shocked by some of these sometimes. And we did gain some personal bests this year, including in attendance, which we think conservatively was 25,810 people, which would be a record for us. We did sell 17,310 of those valuable $2 tickets at our entry gates. We gave away another 3,000 of them, free tickets to needy families and a bunch of other cool people in our community. And then we just guesstimate 5,500 children 5 and under, and that's kind of 1 per every 3 adults. But honestly, that could be much, much higher, because it seems like we have a lot of little people running around at our event. So we think this is conservative and is really a lot of people. Probably had nothing to do with the fact that it was about 83 degrees that day. A rare, rare 4th of July weather-wise. So
Beautiful
brought
weather.
out the crowds. We also hit a personal best on parking for the 4th of July. We parked more cars on the 4th of July than we ever have before, almost 2,000 cars. And that doesn't include the 1,000 cars we parked on the 3rd. The Crocker Art Museum, this is one of my faves. They brought out their art arc for the 3rd year, and this is a personal best for the Crocker Art Arc. They put more people through the art arc in an 8-hour period than they ever have in their 25-year history at the Rancho Cordova 4th of July at beautiful Hagen Park. I always like to say, point this out, that it takes 9 government permits to celebrate our great independence.
Oh, wow.
God bless America. And I tell you, each and every one of them is a considerable work, but it's certainly understandable. We had those great LED wristbands, gave away 10,000 of those. Those were kind of cool for the city's birthday. That was their birthday gift. Insurance, we blasted off an awful lot of fireworks shells in what I think was a really great fireworks show. I hope you concur with that. We had a grand total of 0 fires. Woo-hoo! Right?
0 fires.
It took us 46 light towers to light up this place. Put up more than about a mile and a half of fencing. I mean, it goes on and on. You can see the numbers. But it was a huge undertaking. It takes a village to put on the 4th of July, and we sure appreciate all the help we had from Cordova Recreation and Park District. Some of this survey data was interesting. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, and the real shocker to us was of the 2,000 people that were surveyed at our event, over half of them said they had never been there before. Is that not amazing?
It is.
I don't know what that means for the future, because I think they had a good time. So hopefully that means that we're reaching new neighbors and friends, and people from outside the community are coming to Rancho Cordova and Hagen Park as a destination, a great destination.
Did
for
they
the 4th
get
of July.
to find out how they heard about it? Was there
We
like a
did-
follow-up?
We did. I think, how did you hear about this event? It's
Yes.
right in the, and they
Yes.
said, most of them, it's still word of mouth.
Word of mouth.
And then the signage around town, you know, we have, we're very fortunate to have access to the Highway 50 billboard.
Yes, yes.
Through
I
our
see
partnership
that.
with the city of Rancho Cordova, and I do think that's catching a lot of people. We've
think-
noticed whenever we're using that, everything we do.
I think so, and I've had some people that would say, you know, Cal Expo is, oh my God, to get out of there and all this, and now they have a Ranchos,
Well, they have
4th of
an
July.
alternative. We think it's
Yeah.
a much better alternative.
Yes.
Surprise, surprise, right? We also
Yeah.
learned, and to no surprise, that the fireworks show continues to be the main reason people come to the 4th of July, and justifies our exorbitant spending on that particular item. And we tested a few other things that we're doing, but the other thing that people still love, go figure, is our fabulous 4th of July parade, which for the first time was under our direction, and now now that we have a year under our belt, we'll be looking to continue to improve that. So as far as our relationship with CRPD went, I thought it went really well. I hope Jerry agrees, and Jill and Martine had it, we thought it looked better than it has ever looked, greener and leaner. It's just so pretty out there. And Scott Norton, there were a lot of other people on your staff that were very helpful. But those 4 people were in the trenches with us, where the rubber meets the road, and very helpful. And it was just a good experience for us there. Jill and the staff have given us a few suggestions to continue to tweak the program. We love that. We're always looking for ways to get better, and we're certainly going to consider all those things very seriously. But, and then I always throw this out at the end of every presentation is, where are we gonna have this thing? I mean, it just keeps growing and growing, and we're maxed out. Jerry said that to me about 3 years ago, and I agreed with him 3 years ago, and I still agree with him. So as the provider of recreation space in our community, we should all be working and thinking about what we're going to do as our community continues to grow. We certainly want everybody to be able to come. It's our most wonderful tribute to our great country, and we want to make sure that it's accessible to one and all. So we got to find a way to grow it.
And we'll all keep our eyes open. And hopefully, you know, by the time we really can't fit it, we'd find another place.
Well, we'll have to look.
We will just keep looking.
Right. One of the requirements of your very gracious sharing of this park with us is that we provide some financial information. And this is always sort of a bloodletting for us at the Cordova Community Council, because we intend to invest a lot of our own money, and we did again, another $75,000 of our own dollars into this event. It looks like we came in under budget. We did not. There's still one bill that is a little bit in dispute, and once it is paid, we'll be right on target for our budget spending and income, we believe. So no surprises there. We planned for it.
Great.
So I would just like to respond to questions, hear your feedback. As I said when we met with your staff, give us the good, the bad, and the ugly. We can take it, because we just want to make it better. Brian, thank you for your personal contribution to the success of this event, year after year after year. A total hero, and I appreciate it. Appreciate you. So, questions for the guest?
I just want to make a comment. You know, your numbers are great, but you know, there are thousands of people who don't even go into the park that enjoy our 4th of July.
Oh, I'm well aware of
Around their backyards, and
Resident,
the
yes,
front of
yes,
their houses,
yes.
and on the front lawn, and
Yes.
around the parks that are around the outlaying, the schools. I mean, it's just amazing how the whole program and event, it affects the whole region, the whole area, and they come together and just love it. You know.
Well, our friends at the park rangers from the county, they were going to go and, on our behalf, check out how many people actually roll in across the across the river at that park, because I've heard. Maybe not correctly, but they were going to check for us. You know, thousands of people actually end up going over there to enjoy this
Right across.
show.
I mean, in Carmichael?
Yeah, in Carmichael, from the other,
right
see
across.
the mirror image of what everybody over here is seeing. Of course, we don't feel you get the full effect if you don't come and you hear the music and you know, eat the food and all that. We like that. And I say the same thing about the air show. People say, oh, why should I go to the air show? I can watch it from my backyard. It's not the same, trust me.
Right.
So.
Thank you.
But you're right.
Any other comments?
I
Director
would-
Linebacker?
Yeah, I would like to comment. I was speaking to a woman who is a neighbor to Hagan Park, and she said that the traffic control is so much better than it used to be, and she really appreciates the access to her own property during that event that, you know, didn't used to happen. And so she appreciates the traffic control changes that have been made at that event in the last couple of years. So I thought I'd pass that
Oh,
along.
thank you. When people start talking about traffic around Hagan Park, I kind of grab, because usually
there's only
it's
so
not
much
good.
space.
And it is a horrible, impact. It is, but we keep working on it, and
Sounds
the
like it's
The
working.
PD is helpful, Rancho Cordova Police Department, and the constant construction at Cordova High School creates a need for us to reinvent how we do this each and every year, and next year will be no different. But we'll just roll with it.
I'm curious how I thought the cornhole competition tournament, how did that all
I
pan out?
think it went okay. This was a group in Sacramento that they were looking for a home for this very popular beer pub kind of sport called cornhole. Go figure, right? I think they had about 36 competitors. They were happy with that for our first year.
That's great.
We looked at it and we would do it differently if we did it again. We hope to do it again. Just give them a little bit more showcase. But if you can imagine, if you did attend the event, I mean, we had every square foot of Hagan Park, something going
Covered.
on in it for the first time, all that glass field area, which used to be sort of like, a place you could go to get away from people. No, not this year. We had the U.S. Army was out there. We had the zip line. We had the cornhole tournament. And it's really
Was shooting
pretty
bows and
corner.
arrows?
Yeah, all that, laser tag and archery tag, and it just should be a great fun day. And we're always looking for great new ideas. Next year, we're kind of toying with the idea, we like to build around a theme. It just kind of helps. And it's the 50th anniversary of man walking on the moon next year.
Ooh,
And,
so space.
the very critical pieces of that first rocket to the moon were built right here in Rancho Cordova. So
That
sort
might
of a Rancho Cordova to the moon, and maybe
Something
we'll
like
be able
that.
to do that. So I'm teasing you with that idea in case you have any bright ideas, like you have a rocket or
Like if we
something.
have access to a
You'd like to loan us. Not decided by a long shot, but it is kind of fun to sort of noodle some ideas, so.
That
thought
was
I'd
a
get one
small
rolling.
step for a man, but a giant leap for the Cordova Community Council.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. But anyway, it's a great party. We could
Wonderful.
not do it without you.
Wonderful.
We try not to break stuff. We usually break something. Sorry about that. Try to fix it if we can. But the staff was great. Thank you, Patrick, for, lending us your wonderful folks. And I think we did something good for our community, our large, beautiful Rancho Cordova area community. So we did good.
It seems to always get better and better. And how long have we been doing this already?
I think this was
I mean,
the
Shelley.
34th year, but as I have confessed before, honestly,
It's-
that's not accurate. And that dates back to when I was editor of the Grapevine. At some point, someone says, well, what year is this? And I sort of did a minor research project, and I said, this is the 12th time. Not based on science, but we've been doing it ever since. But everybody knows that people have been shooting off fireworks on the 4th of July in this corner of the world since the gold rush.
Yes.
So,
That's
so
good.
it's a long, long time.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
And I think this is, for me, I'm just excited about the partnership. And I think, it took a while, to work into the groove. And I think both sides have expressed enjoying the process, working together, making it happen, delivering the event. And that's great. That's wonderful. That's how we should be doing it.
Well, we couldn't do it if we were not working together, that's
Yes,
for sure.
yeah, it just makes it hard.
So-
Kudos to staff.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
Kudos to staff. Thank you so
All
much,
right,
everybody.
thank you, Shelley. Okay. So Director Sloan's going to be thinking already about the man in the moon. And do remember, because I'm not so into that, but my husband keeps watching that, and I'm like, and do remember, we do not want to hear, Houston, we have a problem. So anyway, let's go on and move on to the F2.
Thank you, Chair Reyes. Item F2 is a presentation on the updated ADA transition plan. This is also an informative presentation only, no action to be taken by the Board of Directors at this time. And I'd like to introduce Planning Manager Laura Taylor.
Thank you. Hello, Laura.
Hello. Waiting for Matt to bring it up here. So I can't tell you how excited I am to be presenting this update on our transition plan and our self-evaluation to you. It's been a long journey to get here, 2 years in the making, a lot of perseverance, and I'm going to condense it down in our presentation myself, and I have Tim Mahoney in the audience that I'll bring up. He'll do a part of this presentation. 15 minutes, I'm going to talk real fast. I hope that I get the main points across for you. Okay, so I'm going to go over a general overview of what we did, what we accomplished, and what the public input was that we received on this project. Then I'm going to turn it over to Tim Mahoney to talk a little bit about what is required in a transition plan and what is the work that they performed. And then I'm going to talk about how we move forward with all of this new information that we have. So in 2016, the board approved hiring disability access consultants, or DAC, to perform the self-evaluation and transition plan. They conducted detailed site surveys, took photographs, measurements, all kinds of things at all of our facilities that were designed and built before 2012. Why 2012? 2012, the Department of Justice came out with a new set of ADA code requirements, updated, I should say, more specific to outdoor facilities and recreation facilities. So all of our facilities that were designed and built after 2012 are compliant with the latest and greatest ADA requirements. So they looked at our buildings, our parks, our trails, and our golf course. As far as the public outreach, it's required to solicit public input as part of the transition plan. And our consultants provided us with a series of templates that we could use to publicly notice the fact that we were doing this self-evaluation plan. Andrea White, who not here tonight, but she took the lead on soliciting the public input through a variety of ways, and she is our designated ADA 504 coordinator. And can you go to the next one? So the notices that we put out were announcements that specifically solicited input. And so we placed those, we posted them at every single facility, you know, major facility where people go in and visit, the public go to visit. So it was on the main, you know, in the main entry area where people could see it. And then we also created a dedicated web page that had the announcement on it, and we still have it on there because we're going to solicit input ongoing. We want to hear from people from here till eternity about how we can do better and issues that we're having. Additionally, we have a non-discrimination notice on there. We also have a survey that anybody can continue to fill out and submit. We have a grievance procedure spelled out, and Andrea White is the main contact person for that, as well as a grievance form. So we want to be able to facilitate the gathering the information in a proper way. So what did we do to actually get the input from the public? Well, we distributed the surveys at some of our district events that we had, and it was posted on the website. We would also encourage people to go to our website when we were talking to them one-on-one at various events if we didn't have a stack there to give them. Like, for instance, when we did a food truck event over at Eagle's Nest, and it was actually to advertise an upcoming community meeting on the Heron Landing building. But at the same time, you know, we would say, oh, by the way, if you're interested, we have a survey on the ADA accessibility, and we'd love it if you could fill it out. So we got the word out verbally. We put it on our website. In addition to that, DAC provided us with suggested types of organizations that we should contact to to solicit the input. So Andrea took the lead on that, and her crew, they contacted through email and letters over 140 organizations that included, in our region, the disability services type organizations, housing assistance, hospitals, senior centers, et cetera. So the comments that we received then, we considered those as we went through all of the non-compliance findings and prioritizing them. Now, I will have to say, in full disclosure, that even with all of our effort to get those surveys, we got 12 surveys, okay? But we certainly went over and above the requirements to try to solicit that input. So that's the first part, and now I'm going to introduce Tim Mahoney. He is with Disability Access Consultants, and they have been such a wonderful consultant to have on this project. So, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Board of Directors, thanks for having me here tonight. I do want to take a quick second, is that as a company, we've been very fortunate from a business perspective. We work heavily in California, but all over the country. But this staff that we've worked with is bar none the best we've ever done. It's been fantastic to work with. Organization, transparency, detail. So
Very good.
Kudos to staff.
Thank you.
Really want to echo that. Was very, very impressive. Anyway, that being said, I need to be brief, so I'll keep moving here. As Laura's visiting or discussing, is that, what are we doing here? I mean, what is really the overall goals? I will say this, that Cordova, as a district, is that every place we go to has issues as it relates to physical barriers and those type of things. But the intent of the law is that, are you actually assuming that people with disabilities are going to access to your goods and services in your district? Well, the answer is yes, you already have done that. Yes. But there's certain things we need to follow. So I just thought I'd give you a little cursory overview of what the ADA, what the not only deliverables that are being asked of, but what are the requirements of building a transition plan. And the transition plan, by definition, is that ultimately the DOJ and the government realized back in 1990 and said, hey, you know what? We have all these things we want to move into. It is a civil rights law, but I'm certain that a lot of the locations don't have enough money to fix everything in a hurry. So we're going to transition into compliance over time. Well, that was 28 years ago or so. So anyway, to that end is that there's 4 basic requirements with the transition plan. One is that we have to identify the physical barriers that exist that would prevent somebody or be discriminatory towards people with disabilities to gain access to those goods and services. That's what the surveys were about. And we had a team, multiple teams work through here that ultimately we surveyed everything in your district. So facilities, bathrooms, trails, parking lots, playgrounds, anything that's an amenity or a service or good that someone would gain access to. We did that with our DAC Track software. So we have an intake software that does all the intake portion of our surveys, and then also leads into our whole management side of the software, which Laura and Andrew and team are working with currently. Second is that once we find the problems, we have to describe the methods by which we're actually going to fix these or remediate these items. So that's a requirement. That's part of the software as well. So we've given information and guidance of, say, here's the things, not only here's what's wrong, but here's how we're going to fix it. Then the hardest part is, when are we going to fix all these things? So that's the third component. So what are the estimated dates of barrier removal? From a plan strategy perspective, understanding that you can't get healthy overnight, so how do we move this out over a number of years? So I think the team has assembled a multi-year plan to work through those items. And the last one, which is already in place, is they need someone in charge of the plan or a responsible designee in the district to handle that. Andrea picked up the torch of the ADA coordinator. I will say that position is one of her many, like anything else. Having a good support team is important. Having good leadership is important. It's not, it's a very detailed and data-driven position. And so to that end, any support that she can receive, and I just implore at the director level, it's one that needs to be sustainable and ongoing and needs support. So next slide. So as we mentioned, the whole concept here was getting you to an updated self-evaluation and transition plan. So the 4 components I described was the transition plan elements. The other one was the self-evaluation. So we wanted to identify any programmatic barriers that exist. Are you charging more? The fee schedule was appropriate today, but are we charging more for people that support people with disabilities? You're not. Or is there discriminatory language in your policies and procedures that we might want to move through? None of those things existed, but just a small. But that's the self-evaluation, so we identify any programmatic barriers that might exist. And then it was pretty simple work after that, is that, as I said, your staff is so well organized and detailed. That's what makes a sustainable project successful and keep it sustainable. So we're very much looking forward to the progress you make moving forward. But inevitably, we had a kickoff meeting, did all the surveys of the facilities. That drove a bunch of reports that basically are currently within DAC of which you have the access to and will have for the foreseeable future. And then the self-evaluation public input, that gets incorporated into a executive summary. So the deliverables of this project are twofold. We delivered an executive summary that basically memorializes all the things that have been done, what will be done, or what's currently happening and what will be done. That's been delivered as well. And then your transition plan actually exists inside DAC. The idea of the estimated dates of barrier removal are just that, is that based on budgets, and you guys deal with that all the time, is that how many things can we accomplish this year? Maybe we can get more, maybe we can get less, but it's meant to be fluid. So it's not meant to be a formally adopted plan. It's meant to be a fluid plan that you can work over time, but you actually are going to start integrating, which you already are, but you're integrating into your funding and into general budgets. So moving forward, really the project starts, even though we're kind of on the tail end from our perspective, but now it's moving forward. What are all the things you want to get accomplished? They've got a great plan developed. But I will close is that it's just been a phenomenal team to work with. It makes our job enjoyable, but it also leads to the success of the district. So very proud to be a part of it. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments?
Questions, I should say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All
So,
right.
and you might have questions after I'm done with my part here, but we'll just go ahead and, so moving forward, so the consultant identified roughly 3,000 individual non-compliance items. That's a little bit of a scary when you think about that, but it shouldn't be that scary because some items have more than one record. Like, for instance, a parking stall might have several records because it's not quite the right slope, or the paint lines are too close together, or, So one parking stall could have, the sign's not right, it could have 5 different records, right? Okay. But, so we got 3,000 records. What do you do with that? Well, the first thing you got to do is prioritize them. And so the consultant provided us with, I feel like, a really good prioritizing matrix. And priority 1 is basically the things that represent hazards, right? Things that we should fix immediately. And I think we all know that one of the big things in our district that is our broken pathways. And we are definitely making a lot of headway on that. And excited to keep on moving with some phenomenal projects on that. So the next slide is the priority matrix, which there's 7 of them, 7 priority levels, starting with the most hazardous, and it transitions down to the harder and harder and the more expensive and the things that need design. We actually have a number of items that are prioritized at 7, which means that that's a non-compliant item, but we're not going to worry about it because we know that it's eventually going to be removed or replaced with a new project or a new building. So that takes care of some of those 3,000 items. Go to the next one. We know that on an annual basis, we need to go through a prioritization process that we are going to be linking with our budget preparation process. And we're going to look at the projects we accomplished in that current budget year. And, as we go around the outer circles there, those are the things that we have to think about when we look at the next projects coming up on the priority list, right? What do we have on the list that's related to a project that we need to move forward with, and how many can we incorporate and solve in that one project? Have we gotten any complaints over the past year that we should address now? Even though it might be a priority 4 or something, maybe we should address that now. Have we started any new programs that require us to change the way the access is to the building or something. And so that would all affect the prioritization. Is there available funding in that area? And the other thing is, just because we have a compliance record, one of the pieces of data that the consultant provided is what's the deviation? Like your cross slope on your sidewalk shouldn't be more than 2%, very slight, right? But what if it's 2.5%, okay? So are we gonna choose to replace a sidewalk that has a 2.5% cross slope, or are we gonna put fire alarms in a building that doesn't have them? So every year, we're gonna see what's the best use of funds for the public good. That'll be part of our analysis, right? Go ahead. Okay, so this summer, we were able to get the Lincoln Village parking lot handicap, or I should say accessible parking stalls corrected. And so just by doing that one project, we were able to knock 50 non-compliance records off the list. So that's a kind of an example, so where that 3,000 isn't quite so overwhelming. Okay, we've come up with a strategy. We've done a 20-year plan, and we've looked at all the projects related to available funding areas. Like we've got PMRID, we've got Sunridge, CFD, we've got Villages of Zinfandel. We've looked at all the different funding areas. I'm only showing you this slide for PMRID because that's the one with the biggest burden, the most projects. And so the total on that, estimated is approximately 2.9 million. And so how does that work out in a 20-year plan? Well, cash flow wise, that's approximately $146,000 a year, right? So I got to give Christina here a lot of credit because she went through those 3,000 records and prioritized every single one of them.
Wow.
And that's a lot of work.
Yes.
And then from that, we were able to use the data in spreadsheets and sort it so that we could estimate how much does it cost to accomplish all the projects in a certain priority, right? And then we were able to spread that out across 20 years. So, it's going to take us a year to get rid of priority 1 projects. It'll take us maybe 2 years to do priority 4, 6 years to do all the priority 5s. And so that's the strategy moving forward. It's going to be flexible. You're not going to see one line item in PMRID for $146,000 a year because it's going to be balanced on what are some of the other projects. So that's the plan moving forward. It's a major accomplishment to get to this part. And so I'm very happy to be able to present that to you. So yeah, any questions for me or Tim, please let us know.
Any question? Director Lineback.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier in your presentation that you did not evaluate properties that were built after 2012 because that's when the newest standards were established. Were there other, periods of time, like parks that were built between 2002 and 2012, had a different set of standards they had to be compliant with that may not be in such terrible shape as, say, the parks that were built before 2002 or whenever? You know what I'm talking about?
Yes. So we did not go in and evaluate the non-compliance items for what time period that they were compliant in. We just looked at it whole scale, everything prior to 2012, with the intent of bringing things up to the current code.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if perhaps some of the more recently, but not quite as recent as 2012, needed a lot less work, say, than a much older park that had been built and designed many years ago.
Yes, and that actually shows in the spreadsheets, right? So like, for instance, I think Sunridge, Sunridge CFD, which has fairly new parks, their priority 1, the total cost of all their priority 1 projects was $700. Okay, so you see it in the spreadsheets.
Yes.
So.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, and just also, you had your little slide in the middle there with all the circles where you had the annual ADA budget. Is there a target for annual ADA spending?
So,
Or is it really driven by the 1 through 7, slotting of priorities?
so in order to complete the 20-year plan, you have to start somewhere. And the strategy is if we were because there's so many variables, okay? So we have estimates on how to correct some of those things, but those are from the consultant's database, right? They might not be totally accurate to the real cost, right? But to start somewhere, you have to say, okay, to address these, we know it's going to take about in PMRID, it'd take about $146,000 a year if everything was perfect and the cost estimates were all accurate. It would take that, this is what we need to be thinking about. But like I say, some of the things you knock off more of them in a project, and so it's got to be flexible, and that's the whole point of the database, right? It's a working database, and we can be constantly adding the new data and that's one of the things. As those things are completed, we're putting that in the database, and then we can resort and re-estimate.
And maybe one of the things to think about too is that when they prioritize is that 5 years, 8 years from now, you demo, completely demolish or get rid of something.
So it's there.
You might eliminate
Everything.
200 of those
Yeah,
items.
That was
just by
actually my
getting rid
next
of it.
question.
Right, so it's not all budget based necessarily, is that your modernization will take care of things. And that's really what the 8A is about, is that you're understanding that, yep, I have issues, but I'm gonna transition into compliance, and that may just because you're gonna be updating a park in general. So we see that in a lot of cities, is that all of a sudden, we know we're gonna tear this building down in 3 years, so I just took care of 3,000 items just by virtue of getting rid of them. So anyway, some of this is really not gonna touch budget issues. It will, but you're just documenting the things that you were able to.
Right, and it's going to touch the budget in a way that doesn't, as you were talking about, the fluidity of these priorities, depending, a big project is going to eliminate a list of priorities that may appear on every single level, right? So, okay, those were my,
And we are prioritizing having these projects funded on an annual basis, knowing that we have the plan now. We are definitely conscious of the fact that we need to set aside money to get these things going, especially in the PMID area. And we have demonstrated that in this current fiscal year.
thank you very much.
Director Sloan?
Yeah, could you go to that slide that shows the list of priorities?
Okay, the matrix?
That one, yeah, that one. No,
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The number
14.
14, slide number 14.
so the 2.9 million is needed to fix all these priorities from 1 to 7?
Yes,
So priority 1 to 3 are the highest priority.
yes.
What is that figure?
So that figures things like,
No, the dollar figure. What is it needed to fix that 1 point?
I don't have that information right in front of me, but I do have it in the spreadsheets up in the office.
Well, I think one of the things, Director Sloan, because I was thinking about that, I think one of the things here is that they have these as priorities, and I guess when we're looking for projects, or we're looking for funding, or we receive an opportunity, that hopefully if any of it is in this area, that you would make sure that what's in priority 1 to 3 in that area is always taken care of and where we start.
Right.
Example, the senior center. I mean, we had the monies, the fundings, the grant and and the match. And because of that, you were able to say, okay, well, let's deal with what we need to fix here.
Right.
And bring it up,
I think it's also easy to more explain, like you were saying, it's not a list of 1 through 3, and then once we're done with 3, we're done.
No.
Because one of the projects might be a 1 or a 2, but also hits a 6, 7, 5.
All at the same
all at once. So
place.
it's not as clean as just going down a list of priorities that are just labeled as 1, because it's multifaceted. And that's the complexity of what this plan is, which is what they're trying to convey, that it will hit multiples depending on the priority level, and it's not all just priority 1, 2, or 3.
But we're addressing the priorities that could be a danger to the community.
First, yes.
That's usually the
Which
high.
which would limit future liability to the
Correct.
park district.
That's usually the highest risk.
And-
But some of the other things to think about too is that, and it was already mentioned before, is that just because you have all these physical barriers, usually it's because they can't gain access to something. But instead of taking jackhammers out and fixing things immediately, which is why this is supposed to evolve.
Yes.
Maybe you want to view where the program's held. That's what we were just describing in the
Yes.
fireworks and the 4th of July, is that once you start recognizing, maybe I can hold this program at a less priority location or or more accessible location, and then ultimately you don't have to fix that right away. So that's just part of the long-term planning.
Also, your higher priorities are driven by population? How much people?
Safety.
How much these parks are populated?
The first priority is usually safety.
But
So
like you say, it's a community park, it's.
high traffic
more-
for
yeah,
sure.
high traffic.
Yeah, high traffic at some level. The risk management has its thread through this, certainly.
Director Danzel, is there anything you have to say? How about Vice Chair Yearwood?
So I think it's already been answered. I just want to clarify. So that 2.9 million is like PMRID money perhaps, or is that also a combination of grants and different things we might come across? Or will grants potentially
could be.
accelerate some of this work?
It could be. So one of the things that we are becoming aware of is that anytime we do a new project, we have to provide an accessibility plan with that to get the building permit, which requires us to go all the way back, in some cases, to the public right-of-way and provide an accessible path of travel all the way from there to the new project, whatever that is. So so sometimes it's going to be those things that you end up having to do as opposed to, maybe some of the other items that you thought you would do sooner.
I guess the question I had is, so are we looking to fund the 2.9 million out of our budget, or are we looking to do grants and all the stuff that we already do?
Well, whenever
potentially?
possible, we go
Okay.
for grants.
Okay, I just
You
want to
know,
make sure.
And so I guess the reason I got into that story is because we are going to be very cognizant of the fact that when we go for a grant, we need to look all the way back to the public right-of-way. When so the scope of the work may be bigger than we originally, had thought about, but so.
So our goal is to, through our ways, to do at least about 140,000 a year, and if other funds come along, we might be able to accelerate and do other things quicker.
Yes.
All right.
And just to note, let's not hang up on the 2.9 because that's in today's dollars. So
It'd be
20-year
different
plan.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
2038 is
That's
not going to
true.
be that much. It's
Yeah.
only going to get cheaper, so.
And that's why it's so fluid, right?
Yeah.
Well, one of the good things about this, which I'm really thrilled about, is, you don't know what you have to do if you don't come up with this list.
Right.
And even if it says, oh my God, I really don't want to know, then, that's not the way to deal with it. I think what you've done here with the consultants and all that is brought into focus a very quick way of when a project or a possibility of a grant. It's kind of right at the tip of your finger. And you're saying, hey, in that park, pull up all the ADA, compliance issues we have, and let's make sure that we can incorporate it into whatever is drawn up. And I think that's real important. It's nice to see what we need to take care of, than not know and worry.
And I think
So that's a good thing.
if I may, one of the things I'm just most proud of is that I think that a lot of agencies, my sense is they get paralyzed at the point that they have 3,000 records to deal with or whatever the number is. And we have worked really hard with finance, with Christina, to come up with a strategy where we can manage this moving forward. And we have a very rock-solid explanation. Should we ever get cited or, a lawsuit come up or whatever, we are in compliance. And so I feel
have a
really
plan.
good about that.
Yes.
Just one more question. Just out of curiosity, of those 3,000, how many will be eliminated when the pool's done? You can ballpark it.
The pool did take some out, but I don't know that.
Okay,
2,999? Is that,
we're done. How about the center as well?
One and done.
Yeah.
Perhaps a sinkhole
So
could just open.
there probably would be a lot, you're right, the bathrooms, everything. So the,
The center.
We were able to, when the shooting center closed, just say, that was a huge chunk of citations.
ADA.
Oh, yeah.
compliance.
So it's really, I think Chair Reyes put it best, we know now what the problems are. So we
Yes.
have a plan of attack, we've done our due diligence, we're legal.
Yeah,
Yes.
so we feel really good.
That'll be great. Well, that's good. Well, your staff and you have done an excellent job, and our consultant attests to that, so thank you. I don't think we have any more questions. Thank you very much. Thank you, Laura. Okay, so now we're going to move on to regular calendar items.
Thank you, Chair Reyes. Item G1 on the regular calendar is to authorize the district administrator to accept a donation in the amount of $23,000 from the Rosemont Little League for dugout construction and backstop improvements at Rosemont Community Park. And I'll turn it back over to Manager Taylor.
Wonderful.
Okay, so this is another really exciting project to be talking about. So staff recommends that the Board of Directors authorize the district administrator to accept a donation in the amount of $23,000 from the Rosemont Little League for the construction of the Little League field dugouts and backstop improvements. So upon investigating the cost for the construction project, the district staff learned that the budgeted $27,075 would not be sufficient. So in discussions with Rosemont Little League, especially with Keith Lane, who's their president, and he is here today, we're so happy to see him, we decided to craft a project that leverages district funds and volunteer labor and league donations to accomplish the complete improvements to dugouts and backstops on the south field. The district staff does plan to submit a project budget request to complete the north field improvements next fiscal year. Okay, so this donation allows the Rosemont dugout and backstop project to move forward. The project accomplishes desired safety improvements by eliminating the existing concrete dugouts and replacing with chain link fence and a shade cover. The project also replaces the existing backstop, which is a priority for the league. The league will organize volunteers who are training for various construction trades to provide the demolition of the concrete walls, the demolition of the existing chain link fence, and the pouring of new concrete pads. So upon approval of this, if the board does choose to approve this donation, then the district administrator will accept the donation from the league, and it will be deposited into a revenue account associated with this project. And Keith Lane, president of the Rosemont Little League, is here to present a donation check if you folks choose to accept that.
Thank you. And I'm sure you've got some ADA compliance.
Check, check, check.
Check, check, check. So we have safety for the kids and their families and adults. Directors, any questions on this
Well,
before we
I'd love to hear
receive the
from
check?
The president, if he would come up.
Mr. Keith,
Because I'm curious how they raised the funds.
great.
Well, just to be clear, I have a check on me right now.
We take
But-
credit cards.
So, first of all, just to answer your question real quick, is some of that money is actually coming from a former grant that we got from Don Natoli's office for renovation. So we actually were working on this project for the last about 2.5 years, and Christina's been amazing to work with, Laura as well. When we first got that grant, we realized how expensive it was. And that this wasn't even gonna put a dent on what we wanted to do. So, part of the money's coming from that. And then we've been fundraising over the last several years and just really been being responsible with our budget to make sure that when we have the money to, do big projects like this, we have it there readily available. So, just a combination of fundraising and also, grant money. And then,
Is the south field the one closest to the snack bar?
yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's our main field, and it's safety issues now. And definitely, one thing that I'm excited about is I personally actually live across the street. So I see what happens at night in that park, and having those concrete dugouts attracts too many people that have closed walls.
Yeah.
And, whether it be homeless, teenagers, people that are just doing things that they are not supposed to be doing. So exposing that and opening it up will just increase the safety in that park a lot, and just also provided a better place for the kids in that community to play. So, yeah, we're definitely
That sounds
really
great.
excited and just very appreciative of your guys' team, you guys' support, and, moving forward with this project. Hopefully next year as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, most
Thank
definitely.
you. So this will get it ready by, what's the time frame here, Laura?
As soon as you guys, if you guys choose to approve the next item.
Okay.
Then we're going to
So-
be
okay.
issuing a construction contract.
Wonderful. So with this, at this point, unless we have any more questions for Keith, I need a motion to accept.
Could I just have
Yes.
a little question
Yes,
about
Director Lineback.
the report says, staff plans to submit a project budget request to complete the Northfield improvements next fiscal year. So this is doing part of the work that you want, and then next year there will be a completion. Is that what that implies?
Yes.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
So we're doing one entire field, meaning when I say entire field, it's 2 dugouts on one field and a backstop.
So the question there is, we received the 23,000 and we have the 27, that's what follows. So we have the 45,000, right? And I think what we want to know is that going to take care half of that for this south and then the north field? Or will that mean that when we do the north field, we need to come up with more funding again?
We will need to come up with more funding to do the
Okay.
north field, and I don't know, that right now, we don't know of any other funding commitments that might come. We don't know what they're going to have. So we'll have to nuance that project in
Okay.
the capital budget preparation to determine what the actual number is for that next year's project. But
Okay.
what we're talking about right now is getting one field, their best
South.
field, done and ready for them to be able to use.
Okay, did that,
Are the dugouts and both fields the same? They are?
Yes, they are both concrete unit, but one of them has a storage unit attached to it, and that's another thing we have going on the side we're gonna work on separately from this project. But
okay. So, directors, unless you have any more questions, then I will entertain a motion.
I'll move the board, how about I turn on my microphone first? I move the Board of Directors authorize the district administrator to accept a donation in the amount of $23,000 from the Rosemont Little League for dugout construction and backstop improvements at Rosemont Community Park.
Moved by Vice Chair Yearwood and seconded by Secretary Danzel. Roll call vote.
Director Lineback,
Aye.
Director Sloan, Secretary Danzel,
Aye.
Vice Chair Yearwood,
Aye.
and Chair Reyes.
Aye. Thank you, thank you. This is wonderful to have a partnership and to see to it that what we're going to be able to do is what you need done, That's real important, and thank you.
Definitely.
For that.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. That's wonderful. So now I am going to, no,
Is there any kind of
Yeah.
photo at this time?
No, there, he doesn't have the check. Did you want, can we have it with Keith? That's okay, come on, Keith, we'll take a picture together.
Anyone got a blank check?
Yeah.
We have a checkbook? Yeah,
They'll
we
just
can-
Photoshop it. No, I'm pulling your name, your leg. We'll just Photoshop
card.
it. Hold
Get a
your
cal
cal card out. No, this is great, thanks so much.
Like, almost certain.
I'll just call it. So you don't have to walk too far back.
Can we like Photoshop one in? Photoshop one in? Photoshop one in. That's what I was thinking.
Do you have us all? Did you need us to be a little bit?
Rick, I need you in a little bit more.
Oh, we're scooting up.
All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Hang on, we've got lots of cameras.
Oh, let me get mine.
Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, good.
Come on, Matt. He's accepting this.
Wow, that really is a lot of cameras.
Christina, it is time for a new phone for you. I'm just gonna let you know. It might be time to get a new phone.
Don't be shady.
There we go.
That is a lot of dedication.
Shows you what they pay her.
I love it. It fits in my hand perfectly. Thanks, guys.
It didn't flip, so it ain't that old.
No flip.
It didn't flip. Well, here those are coming back.
Yeah, they are. No one wants to do
Next
that.
thing you
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Looking forward to working with you guys.
So we, I'd like to call a break, so do I have to go up there? But do we all? Huh?
Okay, fine.
Do you want the 6-2 or no?
Let's do it. We can do it now. That's fine.
Okay.
Do I need to go stand over there?
All right. Okay, so at this time, I would like to call for a 10-minute break, and we will be back to continue with item G3. Thank you. It was nice to see Mr. Brown, wasn't?
Says nice things too. That's really.
Okay, we're back. It's 8 o'clock, and we are going to go continue with item number G2.
Thank you. Item G2 is to authorize the district administrator to execute a construction services agreement with Crusader Fence Incorporated in the amount of $44,590 for Little League field dugout construction and backstop improvements at Rosemont Community Park. And I'll introduce Manager Taylor.
Good evening,
Hello,
Chair
manager.
Reyes and directors. So I'm not going to reiterate a lot of what I just said in the previous report, but staff is recommending that the Board of Directors authorize the district administrator to sign a contract with Crusader Fence Incorporated in the amount of $44,590 for the construction of the Little League field dugouts and backstop improvements. So this project has been budgeted in fiscal year 2018-19 at $27,075 and is being leveraged with a $23,000 donation and volunteer labor from the league. So upon approval, the district administrator will sign a contract with Crusader Fence and give notice to proceed for this construction project.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions? I know we handled much of these on the item before this. If we have no questions, then I will entertain a motion.
I just have a
Question?
brief hypothetical question.
Director Lineback.
Yes, and since this Public Contract Code 22,000 allows projects up to, or 45,000 or less, to be performed by public agency, hypothetically, if the cost of this contract goes over 45,000, is there an implication with regard to this code?
So the way that we will handle that is that we will just have to reduce the scope somewhere else in the project some way in order to make sure that we don't do anything inappropriate. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I am ready to entertain a motion. Okay. Director Sloan.
I move the Board of Directors authorize the district administrator to execute a construction service agreement with Crusader Fence Incorporated in the amount of $44,590 for Little League field dugout construction and backstop improvements at Rosemont Community Park.
Moved by Director Sloan and
Second. Yes.
seconded by Director Lineback. Roll call vote.
Director Lineback?
Aye.
Director Sloan?
Aye.
Secretary Danzel?
Aye.
Vice Chair Yearwood?
Aye.
And Chair Reyes?
Aye. So motion passes. All right, so item G3. Thank you, Laura, Manager Laura.
Thank you, Chair Reyes. Item G3 is to approve the Montalena Park B Final Master Plan and authorize the district administrator to instruct SBM Incorporated to proceed with the development and construction of the park. And I'll turn it over to Planner Christina James.
Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening, Chair Reyes, members of the board. We've had a long meeting tonight, a lot of big things going on, and here's another one. It's a new park. So the Montalena development, the PDA, the Park Development Agreement, was executed in August of 2013. But we're now at a point where we've got Villages 9 and 10 civil improvement plans being approved and constructed. So we've been working with the developer to move forward with one of the 3 parks in this subdivision. If you could hit the next slide. To give you some context, the Montalena subdivision is south of Douglas Road. In this slide, you can see its relationship to the Anatolia development and Heron Landing. There are 806 dwelling units in the subdivision. The Park Development Agreement states that by the 83rd permit, they need to have started construction on this particular park. What we're looking at tonight and what the timeline has as being constructed next summer is one of 2 neighborhood parks in the subdivision. If you could go to the next slide. So here's the subdivision map. You can see Park C to the north. That's one of the turnkey neighborhood parks. It's 2.1 acres. Then in the middle, Park A is the 10.8 acre community park. And then to the south, the park that we're looking at tonight is Park B, which is a total of 2.5 acres. Next slide. So the developer and their landscape architectural consultant have come up with a concept plan that fits district standards and that is providing amenities that are suitable for a park of this size. You can see there's a multi-use turf area, 2 smaller fields. In the center there, they have a picnic area, tot lot, and that would be a school-age playground just to the south. On the right-hand side of the slide, you can see a drought-tolerant shrub area. So we're trying to carve out a little bit of the turf, remove that turf, and replace it with lower water use plants. Then to walk you through the park in detail, if we can go to the next slide. Those playground amenities, we worked with the developer and the landscape consultant to include amenities that would work both for a younger age group and an older age group. So what we're seeing is those pyramid spinners. We put one at Heron Landing, incredibly popular with all ages, even teens like them. So we're proposing one here in this park. We're proposing 2 to 5-year-old swings, a climber, and then there are smaller crepe myrtle trees around the playground area. Next slide. The park amenities, the budget also allows for a small metal shade structure providing immediate shade for this park. Picnic tables, accessible drinking fountains, barbecue, the turf, multi-use turf area already mentioned, resilient surfacing in the play area. So the budget would allow for that, which we feel would be a great amenity, accessible, lower O&M costs. Next slide. And then again, the park plantings, the landscape architect has looked at several varieties such as salvia, verbena, native oaks, bottlebrush, so that we're bringing a palette into this park of plants that would be kind of the plants we want to move into the future with that are lower water use, more appropriate for our current climate. Next slide. So the anticipated schedule, they're looking at model home construction already in October 2018. If you go out to the site now, you can see construction going on. December 2018, production home construction. And the hope is that by summer of 2019, Park B is well underway to being constructed. So tonight we're bringing this concept plan before you for your review and approval. And then we have a subsequent agenda item for the naming of the park. And if I can answer any questions, I'd be happy to do so.
Any questions from the directors? We know that the turnkey park is one where the developer is going to be the one that's going to be managing, building it, constructing it, in obviously with our staff, the planning staff, to be able to work with them so that it meets the standards and all this.
That's
Am I right?
correct. That's correct. So the park development agreement
Yes.
is very specific in how it describes our checks of the developer and the landscape architect's work throughout the project.
Okay, wonderful.
I just have
Another question?
Yeah, could we go on the fourth slide? So it's a pretty tight for two little tot soccer fields. Is that just to show scale?
So those are small. That's only a 400-foot, size area. So those are more like micro soccer fields.
Oh, really? Okay.
They're not
full.
Yeah, if you were to, they're peewee.
And which of the trees are the crepe myrtles? I'm just curious.
The crepes are in rows through the center of that gathering space.
Those 8 of them going through there?
8, that's correct.
Okay. All I know about crepe myrtles is sometimes they cry sap and gets awful sticky. Some of them don't. But I've known that some of them, one of my neighbors had, we had to cut down because it was crying all over my wife's car and causing, it was hard to clean.
Crying all over her car.
Crying sap, kind of like some of the junipers, I think, or
When they're deceased.
jacarandas or something. So is that something that you know about, that's certain varieties, or is it?
Mr. Dobbs.
Rick, the reason why you have the crepe myrtles crying on your vehicles, you did not hire Dr. Dobbs.
Yeah, they're normally deceased.
No, basically we're trying out a product that is injectable. If you check out Village Green around the crepe myrtles, you'll see you don't have the sap in those areas. We have some tree varieties we need to treat there, but you look at crepe myrtles, they don't do that. It is definitely an insect problem. There's a type of scale that you'll see on there. It's a sucking insect, and when it poops, it lets out the black.
That's what it is?
Yeah, it's just excrement.
It's
Okay.
interesting. I'll tell my wife. I'll tell my wife.
They're not crying.
It's what-
They're
it's
not
what-
crying
Not
on your
crying.
car.
They're
It's what-
It's pooping, not crying.
Just call it honeydew. It's a honeydew is what they call it. Now, it can be treated, but what I would recommend is that you contact your extension agent, and they will go ahead and make a recommendation for you.
All right, thank you. Honeydew.
Thank you.
All right.
Vice Chair Yearwood?
I'm just curious, so in this Montalena development, the linear homes that are being built out there, is that the first phase?
The villages 9 and 10, that's the
Those are
first
linears
phase.
that are being built out there
So
right now?
if we go back a couple slides to slide 3, you can see, it's kind of hard to see, but there's a phasing diagram. And so villages 9 and 10, actually that
There.
might have
it's the dark
changed.
green.
But those are the first villages to be constructed in the Montalena subdivision.
And they've already
Currently.
built houses out there, right?
No,
Oh, there's nothing out there?
They're-
So those
they're
linear
just
homes are not
building.
part of this subdivision? Because there's some houses being built on the backside of Anatolia right now.
I believe what you're seeing is Anatolia 4.
Oh, okay, just wondering.
I have one suggestion, that on Park A, we put a sign that says future site for community park and not neighborhood park or like we did over at Anatolia.
That is correct.
Because people who are buying houses there are gonna have issues.
I inherited that, I got it. And the time is appropriate.
Yes, any more? All right, so now I am ready to entertain a motion.
I'll move the Board of Directors approve the Montalena Park B Final Master Plan and authorize the District Administrator to instruct SBM Inc. to proceed with the development and construction of the park.
Moved by Vice Chair Yearwood and
Second?
seconded by Secretary Danzel. Roll call vote.
Director Lineback,
Aye.
Director Sloan. Secretary Danzel,
Aye.
Vice Chair Yearwood,
Aye.
and Chair Reyes.
Aye. So motion carried. All right. So now we're going to go to item G4.
Thank you. Item G4 is to approve a name for the park currently known as Montalena Park B. And I'll turn it back over to Christina James.
Thank you.
So the Board of Directors has, as in other policy matters, the final discretion in the name selection for the park. Our naming policy describes how parks can and should not be named. We received several naming options from the developer, and we also did some research ourselves. And tonight, we're bringing to you 3 names for your consideration for Montalena Park B. The first name is Sparrow Park. The sparrow is a common bird found in the Sacramento Valley and can be seen throughout the suburban landscape. The park's small but efficient design and compact form make the bird name an appropriate choice. The second name is Infinity Park. The developer investigated potential names that would pay tribute to local area veterans, and the idea behind this name is that the district honors the lives of veterans through the park in perpetuity. An infinity symbol could somehow be incorporated into the park design. And the third name is Cottonwood Park. The environmental impact report describes cottonwoods as one of the major tree species in the area prior to development. This name honors that local flora and conjures images of the Sacramento River Valley landscape.
Thank
Do you have
you.
any questions?
So here we are, we've got these names, and normally, my understanding is that community parks, turnkey parks, parks are normally kind of with suggested names of by the developers. And this is the reason why we have these 3 names. It is my understanding that it is a sensitive time issue, that we do need to make a decision here. So Director Sloan?
Most of the parks that we're putting in there are named after birds, am I correct to assume that?
In Anatolia,
Right, Anatolia?
yes.
I'm not big on cottonwoods because every time they bloom, I start sneezing. I sneeze like crazy when those cottonwoods are blooming.
I think
Sparrow, I have no problem with. Infinity, I'm more interested in. So it's going to be like a veterans type of memorial? Well, you said something will be integrated in the park.
So that concept hasn't been fully fleshed out yet, but the idea from the developer for bringing this name forward is that there would be somehow a physical piece in the park that would talk about veterans, whether it's part of the monument sign, whether it is a field of poppies, but somehow the park would be able to speak to our community that has many veterans in it.
Okay, any other comments?
I just have one question.
Vice Chair Yearwood?
So if we name this park Cottonwood Park, would there be cottonwood trees in this park?
Probably not.
So there you go. Director Sloan won't be sneezing. All right.
If you have a pool.
So let us think about it. So, Director
Can we
Line.
remove one of them? Is that what? Is that?
No, what I'd like to do is probably allow any of you make a recommendation, and then we can see how many are interested in it or not. You know? Yeah. Director Lineback.
Yeah, I
You
kind of
seem to
like the idea of infinity, but I think I'd rather see that for the larger park that's being planned. And so I would like to make a motion to approve Sparrow Park as the name for the turnkey neighborhood park currently known as Montalena Park B.
I'll second that motion.
All right. Any other? All right. So at this point, I have a motion by Director Lineback and a second by Director Sloan. And you can do a roll call vote. Is this what we're, yes, please.
For Sparrow Park.
Yes.
Director Lineback,
Aye.
Director Sloan,
Aye.
Secretary Danzel,
No?
Vice Chair Yearwood,
No.
and Chair Reyes.
Aye. So we do have Sparrow Park.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What, infinity park?
All right, thank you very much, Director. So we do have that, and I believe we're down to,
I think we'd
we
like to have
have
a comment.
public. Wonderful. Just give us your
Hello.
name. Hello.
Thank you for hearing this tonight. My name is Kevin Whitetrip. I'm part of the development team for Montalena. And just one point of clarity for the record, the ownership group that is selling the land is SPM, but the actual developer builder is Premier Chrysanthe LLC. Excuse me, LLC. So just as a point of clarity.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good.
All right.
Thank you. Are you happy with the Sparrow?
It's very good. I like it. That works well. And I like the idea maybe of infinity for the main park.
That sounds
So,
great.
Yeah, it's great.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you. So we have a park, a new park that's going to be built. Yay. All right, so item G5.
Thank you. Item G5 is to accept the Park Maintenance and Recreation Improvement District Oversight Committee Annual Report as of June 30th, 2018. And I'll turn it over to Finance Manager Matt Goodell.
Matt Goodell.
All right. I know I thought I could get away with 0 items tonight, but I snuck one in. So PMRID area has an oversight committee, as we had a member of that committee here tonight, Ryan Brown, speak to that.
Yes.
And they met on September 13th. And one of their roles and responsibilities is to take a look and have oversight over our expenditures. And so what we do for them is provide some information in an annual report form. And we've been doing this for a few years, and it seems to work really well, and they love it. And we've stepped up some levels of more detail and different looks, and provided them some information that is very helpful in them providing their responsibilities. And so this is the annual report for last year, and It's in the package, but this is a colorful version here that we have in front of us. And it speaks to who's on the committee and the management team that speaks to that. And has the mission, the purpose, the amenities, that the purpose of why the money is supposed to be spent and how it's supposed to be spent. And of course, PMRD is broken up in 3 zones, and so we monitor that and control based on how many units are in each zone, determines how much revenue and spending is associated with that. So we provide that information, how it's set up, the structure of it, and so we have 2 representatives from A, 2 representatives from Zone B, and 1 from Gold River in Zone C. The overall map, and we're gonna probably refresh and reset this map next year. We've been using this map, but the red represents A, B represents yellow, and the green up above represents C. We also provide a list of our parks and facilities that are located in this area. And so we have over 23 parks and facilities that PMRD is responsible for, and we provide some acreage numbers as well. Over 370 acres in this area that is managed. So big chunk of our overall district. Revenue, we provided them some revenue numbers, and last year was unique due to the escalation of Measure J and My Parks Enhancement Fund. We've been receiving about $20 to $26 over the last 10 years. And so if you look at those little blue bars, they're pretty flat. If we had added a line of our expenditures and cost, it would definitely be rising and much higher than where that's at. And so that spoke to the need for Measure J to enhance our operating standards and also to do projects for our deferred maintenance of obviously aging infrastructure since 1958. And so we break up our revenues by those 3 zones and also added the $51 per house to bring up to almost $2 million to help with those standards and those projects. So that's the revenue side. And then we provided some information about how that money's spent. And so we provide by the zones and then the overall capital improvement projects, which Measure J speaks to. And that's not determined by zone. And so that one satisfies the whole entire area. And so that's some information about our budget, how we actually spent. We had a $2.6 million budget. We spent 2.5, and then we break it out by zone and who paid for those costs is associated to that. So whether it's PMRD, My Parks, or other. And then we give them some really good detailed reports, some profit and loss basically by zone. So Zone A, Zone B, Zone C had its own budget and those costs associated with it. So that's part of that report. And we also attached a claims report that speaks to who we spent the money on. And so the oversight committee is able to review not only profit and loss by zone, but also exactly who received those funds. So we did that by all the zones, a lot of information. And then we took a look at the projects that were done. And again, a level of detail of the people that we contracted with and the expenses that we had pertaining to each of those projects. And that's all that $737,000 that we had in projects. So that's the overall annual report. We also included the last couple of years summary, executive summary totals. And we had some new members take a look at it. So it's part of this package. Again, the oversight committee got a chance to really look at it, and we had a meeting and discussion about it, and it went very well. And they approved it, they accepted it, they signed off on it. And, Ryan was here tonight saying some nice accolades about the work that was performed. And so that's the annual report.
Thank you. And I hear we have a full group, right?
Correct.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
And
A lot of energy.
Yes, a lot of energy, and now we have the full advisory council there. And okay, so any questions from our directors? No questions from our directors, therefore I will entertain a motion.
Chair Reyes, I move the Board of Directors accept the Park Maintenance and Recreation Improvement District PMRID Oversight Committee's annual report as of June 30th, 2018.
Moved by Secretary Danzel, seconded by
I'll second.
Director Lineback. Roll call vote.
Director Lineback,
Aye.
Director Sloan,
Aye.
Secretary Danzel,
Aye.
Vice Chair Yearwood,
Aye.
and Chair Reyes.
Aye. So motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, directors. Now we're moving on to Board of Director items.
Thank you, Chair Reyes. Item H1 is board member reports. We had no training for this period. Item H1B is board member community activities and meetings report.
Okay. So, who would like to start with their committee meetings and reports? Shall we start? Director Lineback?
Okay.
Okay.
I attended the Operation Inspired at Dave Roberts Park with the helicopter landing, the Sac County Sheriff's helicopter. Tons of kids, a lot of excitement. They loved it. They all got backpacks, and they got to listen to a number of people who were talking about how they got to their future, trying to inspire these children for their own futures. And it culminated with some handing out of also some air show tickets. But it's just a great event, and the kids love it. And it's a cooperative event with many agencies, and so I thoroughly enjoyed it, and the weather was beautiful. I also, well, on September 6th, I did go to the board candidate orientation, which I would like to thank the staff for providing for us. And then I attended the Rosemont Community Association meeting after that. And the only, I did get another question about the playground at Primrose Park. When is it going in? Will it have swings? So I mentioned the possibility maybe of perhaps having our park superintendent maybe attend a RCA meeting just to, let the community know what's planned for that playground structure. So I'll drop that into the room. And then no promises being made, I see. But it would be nice, I think.
I checked with our park planning and development, and it is slated for this fiscal year, I believe, but there'll be community outreach meetings coming closer to January.
Okay.
So the timing would be more appropriate for us to go to Rosemont Community and let them know about the community outreach efforts that we'll be making in January.
Okay, that's grand. I'll pass that along. And then lastly, I did attend my first meeting of the Sacramento County Consolidated Redevelopment Agency Oversight Board. I have to read that because I can't remember it. And I have to say it was quite interesting. I was curious about how the Oversight Board was structured. And so basically, it has a representative from each of the cities that have a redevelopment agency in their area, as well as the county itself, then the special district representative, which was the seat that I took, and then there was also a community member who was on that board. And so I don't know how that community member was chosen. I will try to find out. For the cities, those positions were each appointed by the city that has a redevelopment agency in it. So the special district seat is the only one that's subject to election. The others serve at the basically
Appointed, huh?
they're appointed and they're staff, so I think they're volunteered for that often. Not. And so we were introduced, each redevelopment agency gave us an overview of the efforts that they are making to sell off properties at fair market value, which is, I understand, a requirement, and or pay down the bonds that are, have been issued for those projects that already have been underway or completed. So they gave us an overview of how much money they have left in bonds, how many properties that they have gotten rid of, and also gotten rid of, i.e. sold, And apparently, a request will be coming at least from the city of Ileton to somehow be able to sell some properties at below market value because they have been unable to sell them at market value. So that was the business of that meeting, was to get an overview from each of the redevelopment agencies to the oversight board. And that is my report there. Apparently, we do have to have a special session because the city of Sacramento and I believe the county of Sacramento sued to relieve the redevelopment agency funding from pension obligations. However, they lost that lawsuit in the courts, so we'll be having a special meeting next week to approve the back payments that had not been made pending the outcome of that lawsuit. So, there you have it. And by the way, the city of Rancho Cordova was represented, who spoke to us was the city clerk, was actually the person who came to that meeting to report to the oversight board about what was happening in the city for that.
Thank you, Director Lineback. So now we move to Director Sloan.
Okay, it's moved to me.
Your
On
turn.
August 18th, I attended the Rancho Cordova Soccer Jamboree, and at Stone Creek Park, which is considered the home field of that organization. And I just wanted to give kudos to Jerry Dobbs and his crew, and how I got so many compliments on the shape of the fields. It just was beautiful, a great job. Also, my son's home field is out in Heron Landing. And even that was beautiful too. I took photographs of the park. It was just gorgeous. And the field was so beautiful, and very nice job. I'm real proud of you guys. Then on September 4th, I attended the Rancho Cordova Athletic Association. And the finalization of the, where is that? Sports field renovation projects for 2017-18, which we have Cordova Lane Field Lights at the Little League, where they've got $22,500 that will be going into that park, which is our park on our property, for lights. And the continued turf application benefiting the Rancho Cordova soccer field at Stone Creek. And I wonder if we could ask for some for at Heron Landing, since we're using that too. These are all geared towards Stone Creek turf. So I can ask them at the next meeting if that's something that we need. And Saturday, October 14th, is that homecoming for Cordova? Oh, it is? Well, then October 14th is the day for the Rancho Cordova Hall of Fame, Sports Hall of Fame, just for your FYI, if you wanted to attend it. It's a Saturday. That's it.
Thank you, Director Sloan. Secretary Danzel.
So when I submitted my report, I didn't have any report, but I did also attend the board candidate orientation on September 6th, and I do thank staff once again. As Director Lineback said, it was, everybody who needed to be there was there. All the information that could have been asked was asked and clearly answered for us. And then through my job, I ended up actually seeing the dog and the dog days in the park on Saturday. It seemed, I caught it at the beginning. I was there for about 45 minutes, but definitely bigger than it's been in years past, and seemed well attended, and lots of dogs and lots of things for dogs. So that's what I've got.
Thank you, Secretary Danzel. Vice Chair Yearwood.
Again, I didn't have anything this month, but I did attend a LAFCO meeting at the end of July. I probably can report on real quick. There wasn't a whole lot of a whole lot of interesting stuff talked about is what I was thinking, but there was an assembly bill that was going through, and of course I forgot my notes, but it had something to do with trying to get funding to help districts that might need to consider consolidation, helping them with studying that and, figuring out if they should consolidate or that kind of thing. I have no idea what happened with that bill. I'm sure I'll find out about it at the next meeting. And the other thing that was of interest was the city of Sacramento wants to annex somewhere in the Natomas area that is currently part of the Natomas Park District. Rio Linda, sorry, Rio Linda. What that's currently part of their district, so they're kind of pushing back on them about doing that. But the city says they're a one-stop shop, I guess, except for part of your old stomping grounds is also part of the city, but that district was a special district, right? Isn't part of Fulton El Camino within the city?
A tiny little part of Fulton El Camino over near Arden Fair Mall
It's a sliver.
is in the city, but it's just a sliver. And there are no parks there. There's only a school in that area.
They were trying to use it as their argument as to why they shouldn't be expected to relinquish control of parks in that area to them or allow whatever, that was the big to-do of the meeting.
Yeah, I think the real problem is for Rio Linda is it's going to suck about 40% of their revenue, and it might make them not really viable.
No, it's the part that's not I guess they call it the frying pan or whatever.
The panhandle or the...
Yeah, it's just the handle they're going to get though, or something, or whatever.
Yeah, but it still represents a chunk of their revenue that they can't afford to give up.
Yeah,
so.
I think that's a big concern. They didn't want to lose the revenue. So, they're still going on about it. So that was it. That kind of monopolized the meeting. They tend to like to do that. That's
Thank
all I
you.
have.
Thank you, Vice Chair Yearwood. I did attend the board candidate orientation. I think staff did an excellent job with presentation, and I must say the atmosphere and in the room with staff was delivery of material with excitement, and you can feel that there is good morale in that room, and I felt that staff had excitement for the future. Sometimes, for a while sometimes we have these, and there's a little worry of what we're doing. But I think I can sense that whole feeling of everyone feeling proud, wanted to talk about our parks and say as much as you can about it. I always take that opportunity and really enjoy it because we always learn something, no matter how long we sit on the board. I sit on the board. So I wanted to thank staff for that. Patrick, you did a great job with your staff there. The other thing which dawned on me is, you see, the board that I was elected to, which was the California Park and Recreation Commissions and board members, they meet, the regular meetings is like every quarter or so, but they do give you access to a web phone conference call, and what I've been able to attend were more of their executive board meetings, which was on these conference calls. They had the first one they had was in Sacramento. I think it's when the CPRS was here or something. I'm not sure, but I was not available because of my husband's transplant. So the next one is going to be in October in the city of Lake Forest. And I'm not too sure I'll be able to make that. It's, I think, LA area? Yes, the LA area. Anyway, the main thing that I'm still trying to get a feel for this board. The executive board, first and foremost, it's one thing to be on a call that you don't know anybody there, but you're listening to people talk, and I'm starting to put names together here. But it seems like they're having a challenge with getting more board members in, getting more members and leadership. Their executive director is called Jim Simpson. His name is Jim Simpson, and his office is in Folsom. And one of the things that he did say was that there were members that he was still trying to collect, the dues or so to bring in, and there was a little bit of that concern. So the other thing was on their agenda was a critical nature of new officer recruitment. So they were having concerns about that. I believe they have a president-elect, and then they needed more of the succession plan. So I don't know, I mean, from some point or other, how they, what's the makeup of their membership. The other thing that they discussed was, I guess, they were discussing about a Sacramento meeting, and there was like banquet that they were going to set up or so. But anyway, that seemed quite interesting. And their next meeting is going to be on October 20th. So I attended more like a conference dial-in number, and it's interesting. You try to get a feel, and some people were saying, well, it takes you about a year to get it into this whole, system. I don't know. How many years am I on it for? I'm not sure. 2, 3, 4? But hopefully by then. One of the biggest things I'm where I was, knock on wood, worry about was when I got on the board and I was talking to Jim, and he had asked me if I would be willing to be a secretary because they needed to fill that position. At that time, I said, no, I wasn't able to because of my husband's health. Plus, I didn't feel, I felt a little bit like, oh my goodness, are you lacking with members? But anyway, such is the case, and so they're supposed to be more statewide, and so I'll have more to say. Their executive board meetings are monthly, and their regular board meetings are quarterly, the general membership. Okay, so that's it. And so now we will move on to the next item, which is if we have the district monthly progress reports.
Yes, the report for September, and I'll turn it over to Administrator Larkin.
Administrator Larkin.
Thank you, Clerk Jones. Some highlights from the past month. Staff met with the with the Folsom Cordova Unified School District on finalizing our joint use agreement. The School District 2x2 Standing Committee will review the new agreement at an upcoming meeting in October. We're working still with LPA, staff, and City of Rancho Cordova to continue on with the community pool design. We're coming close to 100% design, and that will be coming forward to the board, I believe in October, possibly November, depending on our timeline. And we're also looking to host a community outreach meeting in October as well. So those dates will also make sure that you're available for those. I believe it's October 23rd, and it will be here at City Hall in the American River Room. We are partnering with the Dave Roberts Park. We went out to, when some of the staff went out to the Inspire the Future event, which the city did a great job with. I also joined them in their debriefing of that event. It was a great partnership between us, the city, the school district, and they doubled their numbers. So last year there was about 1,000 kids, and more than doubled. This year there was about 3,000 kids from multiple schools, and busing was involved, and quite a production, so they did a great job with that. We are hosting the first Williamson property we had a stakeholder meeting, which included agencies from Soilborn, the Sacramento Tree Foundation, and the City of Rancho Cordova. We discussed the intentions of the project, and we'll be going out to a community outreach meeting on October 11th at the community church next to the property. And that will be an opportunity for us to listen to the community and hear what their thoughts are on that particular property. We're going to be looking at more of a passive opportunity for recreation versus a more active due to the restraints with Coloma and that particular section. We met with the Marlins and Cordettes, and reviewed the design plans to date and got their opinions on things like the decking system. There's a deep gutter system versus a rim gutter system, and it was decided that we'll go with more of the rim gutter system because of the accessibility for everyone. So it was a debate whether or not it was a better system for a deep gutter, being that it was more going to be used for lap swim and potentially competitive swim. But we all decided ultimately it's a community pool and the rim system would be a better accessible pool for everyone. We will be doing a board work session on our policies coming up October 10th at 6 p.m. We had the discussion earlier today about the claims report. Instead of it going annually, will be going on a quarterly basis as of the decision made this evening. And we hired Nina, who was introduced to the board this evening. We have a recruitment out for our marketing communications specialist, which will close, I believe, this Sunday. And currently we have over 100 applicants for that position. We are still out for the facility supervisor position, and we'll be looking to do interviews for that in October. We have a great accomplishment from Gary Atchison, our PM1, who got certified in playground safety inspector. So he's going to be using that training to help us inspect our parks throughout the district. So awesome opportunity. Jerry gave him a development opportunity. He took it and he passed. It's a very difficult test. So good for Gary. I mean, it's quite an accomplishment, actually. Not everyone passes it on their first or even second time. So Peterson ball field renovations are happening. It's looking really good out there. The staff are working really well and making sure that the improvements are very visible. So if you head out to Hagen, you can definitely notice the difference. Swim lessons this past summer, we had nearly 200 more than 2017 season. This is the highest enrollment in summer swim lessons since the closing of Cordova Community Pool in 2015. So excellent job to Jill and the aquatic staff for providing quality swim lessons that attracted more people than previous years. At the Mather Sports Center, they're excited to now announce the new NFL Flag Football League. The league is a 10-week program, and it will started on September 10th and includes a player skills clinic, weekly practices, 8 regular season games, and playoffs. This is the first of its kind. So I was really happy to hear that we were able to get the numbers for us to be able to offer it this year. So great job to Jill again and Nina coming in and taking charge of that and getting it promoted a little bit heavier so we could actually run the program. The Hideout has approximately 33 students after school. We've added a homework help component in the after school time in a separate room so kids can have independent tutoring, wouldn't call it tutoring, homework help with one of the staff that are able to help them for a time if the parents choose for them to do that. We hosted a 1-week summer camp at the community barn, which was very successful, and the kids loved it. We went out there and I visited them, brought them some popsicles, and the kids were having a blast. Their comfort level with the animals walking around with chickens and everything was shocking. It was pretty cool. So good job with all that. Neil Orchard Senior Center on August 9th, 43 participants took a trip to Groton Casino in Roanoke Park, and the Senior Legal Hotline hosted a workshop on August 15th on the topic of wills and trusts. And then, of course, August 27th, in celebration of National Banana Lovers Day, staff treated the members to a free banana split. So you know how we love the bananas here at Cordova Parks and Rec.
Not all of us.
We did not. Some of the staff did, bar a suit, so there is a picture there. And other things of highlight, we will go into the next section with some special event and invitations. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? All right, so we're going right now into all the information.
Yes, item
Yes, please.
J1 is the articles, correspondence, and public outreach there for your review.
Mhm.
Oh,
So of note inside J1, the minute copy PRMID Oversight Committee, the 5/14/2018 meeting. So just to note that that is in this packet, which is a very large packet. These minutes are from the previous meeting, so they're only provided to the board after the PRMID approves the minutes at their past minutes. So we have a very lag time in that. And once they're done, we post them to our website. So I'm looking to see if the board would recommend that we add those in the future, or do we just have it available on our website?
you know, we had a conversation about this on my agenda review, and the challenge was, it was May, and we're talking about their minutes now. So according to our clerk of the board, it gets onto the website. The whole minutes is attached to the website, and we have an ability to look at it. So are we still needing to have it put in our package? That's it? That's a question.
I'm going to advocate for continuing to put it in the packet. It only takes up a couple of pieces of paper, and I know that there has been a genuine effort to build a relationship with the PMRID in where they would feel like the board was aware of them and what they were doing. And one of the ways that this was accomplished was by putting their minutes into our board packet. So I just think to keep that momentum moving forward, where they feel like their committee is both valuable and valued, that we continue to put it in the board packet. That's my take.
Okay, how about the others? It's May 14th. It comes on to us with their minutes, and if you feel the same way, then we'll just keep it coming every quarter. It'll be a quarterly in our, okay, keep it quarterly.
Thank you.
All right, that's good. And then, all right, so unless we have any comments or questions on the articles, then we would move to the future agenda items.
Thank you. Item K1 is regarding the regular board meeting for October 17th. And so far, we have planned the park use agreement for the CCC's annual holiday tree lighting. I also wanted to mention that an item came to our attention after this meeting's agenda was posted. And so we're actually going to be adding that to the board work session on October 10th. It's an item regarding a nomination for the Capri Board. So just wanted to let you know that we'll have one action item at the board work session.
On the 10th, you're right. Okay, thank you. And then there's another item that's going to be coming into our next month's agenda, and I wanted to share it with the board. It is, staff has been working so hard. They're down to their last 2 months, and now we've got a job to do. So for us, the board, we have a job to do. It's time for the annual evaluation of our administrator. And on talking with staff and talking with the personnel, human resource, Andrea, and the clerk of the board, what we had discussed was, I would like us to, we have taken a lot of time, this has been a very busy year, and we have taken a lot of time and put in time to get, and we still have, the policy workshops and all this. So I wanted to see if, what you thought about the fact that I was suggesting that we do away with the ad hoc. We get, and now staff has to do their part, we receive, we put it as a special session on October, okay? Because the contract we're talking about is the 1st of January. So what we do here is we will receive the management survey. We will receive Administrator Larkin's report, Yeah, supplement, and we will receive, I believe the form we used the last time was pretty good with what it took. And what I was suggesting was, we do it all, we get it a week or two before, all right? And we receive it, we read it, we see what, and then when we get together on a special session on October after the meeting, that we go ahead and sit down and together fill out our evaluation.
So closed session.
So it will, oh yeah, it's a closed session. We, the board, can go ahead and instead of having an ad hoc committee and all these comments and all this, that we are able to get together, go through each number and talk about it and see where we are with it, okay? And if we can get that done, there are how many? 10 or 11 parts. It's a 1, 2, 3, unsatisfactory, meets, excels. And then if we are able to do it then, we will be able to fill it out, we will be able to complete the evaluation. Andrea is going to put it into writing for formality, but we will be able to do the evaluation. And then after that, depending on how we feel, but staff will be ready to put it on in, we will be able to give Mr. Larkin his, and he said it'd be fine, give him our evaluation. He will be able to look at it, and he will have a chance to come back in to us and talk if there's something that he agrees or doesn't agree with. And if after that, we are able to, and if, let's just say, it's done and he's come in and he's talked his piece, then what we would do is we would then, on October also agenda, that we will then, we can go into the negotiation. I mean, work in a closed session to work. Andrea will prepare all the benchmarks. She will prepare all the same paperwork she's given us. And it is at that time then that we as a group can decide, okay? If that happens, and if we can cut it off smoothly that way, then by the end of that evening, we can have what we call either come out with an action where we can discuss what our we have to talk about what our negotiation, our offer, and what we'd like to offer him. And then we can have it done. If he accepts or he can come back or whatever. Now, to make it simple, this way we don't have to come up with ad hoc committees. What I was going to suggest is that also in October, we will have to, before we go into closed session, yes, we will have an action item that will be the designating of the negotiator. Am I right? Is that the verbiage? Okay, of the negotiator. What I would like to suggest is that we allow the chairperson, whoever is the chairperson, to be our negotiator. So that this way, the chairperson, I mean, it's all the information is going to be a decision of the board. Then the chair will be able to work the negotiation and either come back with an agreement and a contract that begins on the 1st of January. It is all to start on the 1st of January. But this would allow us to attempt to take care of that full evaluation, do our talk, express, rather than have to write and say, okay, compile and understand why. And then if by chance we're not able to come out, we come out with an action, no action taken, then we still have November with which to put our closed session in and then get it done before the end of the year because his contract starts January 1st.
Correct. So Chair
So
Reyes,
I was trying to see about, let's get it done.
when were you planning on doing this again?
At the board meeting. According to staff right now, I was looking at, according to staff right now, our October board meeting is not very heavy, not like today with all the presentations. And if we can work that right, then what would happen is staff, Administrator Larkin, Andrea White, they will be preparing what they have and get it to us before. Andrea will be working with us with the facilitation of what we need or whatever, and then she could step out because then we do our closed session. And then we complete the evaluation that night.
Okay, so I assume we will do our rankings and all that prior to this meeting, this closed session, is that correct?
What I'm suggesting is that, yes, you read it, you have an idea of what you would like on your rating. We get together as a closed session and we say what number.
So we have to decide on a number and a comment for 11
You
items?
you do not have to have a comment for everything. You also, if you notice, the comments come when you have an unsatisfactory and when you have an excelled. But if you have the meats, there is no need for comments, right? However, even the comments can be taken down while we are talking. Because I felt the last couple of years we're getting better at it, because at least the form we're using is something that seems to be the same. But this whole thing of everyone having to say so much, everyone having, you remember, we will have the goals and we will have the whole self-evaluation, and we will have the management evaluation to review, to read over before. If you want it a week before or 2 weeks before, staff is willing.
Well, 2 weeks
to
before only
accommodate.
gives staff a week and basically 2 weeks to get their stuff done. And I think that's putting them on a short notice. Because, I mean, I don't know what staff has on their plate, but I know staff's got a lot on their plate to,
We will do as directed.
I understand that.
The
but
staff
at
that we're talking about-
time, we have to be realistic as directors to know that you have a pool project going. You've got all this other things, and I don't want to slow those processes down when we still have 2 months technically to get this done.
Yes.
That's my concern, is that we're going to slow something else down, that trying to push this at a 2-week period for staff to get it done.
I asked staff exactly that. I asked Andrea about it. And District Administrator Larkin said he can come up with his goals. And that's pretty much all it is. The evaluation form is the same form we always use. The other thing that Andrea will simply do is do her benchmarking, which is these are what's out there, and that comes after. You know, she'll come back in and out. So I'm thinking, if we can't get it all finished, at least we have November. But it's going to really be such a tight thing. I think it's a straight, I don't, you know, I think it's let's sit down and let's get this over with, because we anyway talk about it and we say why and we come out with a number. It's not anything other than, here are his goals, you've read it, what do you think? Write it on your paper, and then you come and we do what we've always done, is sit down. And we don't need long story narratives, because then we have to put it all together to get one. So that's what I'm thinking. And I'm thinking about time of directors ourselves. We have community meetings, we have November, we have Thanksgiving, we have December. So I'm like, let's attempt to try and get it done in that one night, at least the evaluation part.
I think the idea of not having an ad hoc committee is a good one, because we end up, the five of us together anyway.
You're right.
October may be pushing it. I'm sort of concerned about, sure, staff time, how about director's time too? You know, to absorb a whole board package and to have a whole board meeting and then that night go into closed session and come out with a whole evaluation seems
Like a lot.
like a lot to me.
Okay.
Regarding the negotiator, I thought that the district administrator picked the negotiator. So I think this idea, that's what you did last year, right? You picked.
No. We're talking about the board representative to negotiate with,
Patrick can pick,
Patrick can
choose to pick somebody
to represent him.
Represent
But
him.
to
From this
if
group,
he
it's
chooses.
us. One of us needs to be that representative on our side.
You picked me last year. I was the negotiator last year.
Okay. That-
So we
that-
picked
that
one
was-
of
I was
us.
just wondering, so I'm not clear on that.
Yeah, we pick one of us has to be the negotiator. And one of the things I was going to say here was, I'm trying to say, hey, streamline here. If we can just get it, then we can get the chair. Next year, Michael, everyone is going to have an opportunity to be a negotiator. And I think that's valuable.
Well, that may or may not work because every year the process changes, but,
Yeah, and
Well,
the-
and
hopefully,
I don't know that that's
years, it's
important
changed.
anyway. you
yeah,
know.
but it will be established and hopefully it doesn't change every year. I think we're getting better and better and better at streamlining it. Are you then saying that maybe because of that, and we have a deadline by the end of December to get it done by January, are you saying that you'd prefer it to be in November? Or could we hold a special meeting so that it's on a, it's
Special
up to
meetings
you.
are,
I know.
I know, special meetings are difficult, but it's,
Yeah. So we have October or November. Do we have a December? Yeah, but then we have to make sure we
I
got
mean,
it done.
I
What do you think?
appreciate the staff input and Patrick's self-evaluation.
Yes.
And all of that, but ultimately, the evaluation is a product of this board.
That is correct.
So
Totally.
I'm kind of concerned that it's like, okay, we'll sit down for half an hour in a closed session, we'll get this evaluations. It just feels a little bit rushed to me to make that decision tonight, that by next month, included in a board meeting, we're also going to produce a thoughtful evaluation of the district administrator.
Well, first and foremost, that's why I'm asking you, I did not expect us to take 30 minutes. I expected us to do what we had done always. The only difference was with the ad hoc, we were sending all these long narratives, and then we came back together and we said, here's what I think, here's what I think, and here's what I think. So that's one part of the evaluation.
So Chair Reyes, I think last year we took an hour, approximately an hour and a
Yeah.
half to an hour and 45 minutes after we'd already done our evaluations on this process.
Yeah.
And I think the worry is that trying to go through that, we're going to be in that 2 to 3 hour range if we're actually sitting down truly trying to get this all done in a night. I think it's just pushing it a little bit. The November meeting is a week earlier, if I'm correct, Ms.
That's
Jones?
normally-
Due to the fact of Thanksgiving week.
Yep.
I don't see a problem. It gives staff more time, it gives us more time. I mean, I know staff will do whatever we tell them to do because that's what Patrick's job is to make sure that he pleases us in a sense, but, at the same time, we've got to be realistic. I think
So November is
the 14th
when
of
you
November
like?
works for the best for at least
So,
myself.
okay, so here's the thing.
And then to have the work that Andrea is doing and Patrick's self-evaluation,
And staffs, the management teams.
the management team,
Teams.
yeah.
By when?
Well, then maybe they can get it to us, no later than the first, earlier than that, which gives them,
At
say,
least 2 weeks.
3 weeks to get it out to us, and then, 2 or 3 weeks for us to individually
Read it
prepare
and
for
prepare
that
for-
closed session that would
Okay.
happen.
So 3
All
weeks
right.
prior to the 14th date is Halloween. So that's what we're looking exactly 3 weeks prior to is Halloween, October 31st. So,
All right, so what I,
no, I'm just saying, but we said no less time than that, so that gives.
no, we're going to be trunk or treating.
One on trunk or
Okay,
treat.
so let me make sure I heard what you said. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and we're going to do that evaluation closed session in the November. Okay, and we would like the information, staff to give us the information, when? By the end of October? At the very latest?
October 31st. no
Okay,
later.
yeah. What day is October 30? Well, they can send it to us. Okay, great.
So it gives
Yeah.
us 2 weeks. It
Yeah.
gives us 2 weeks. From the 31st.
Earlier than that, the 24th?
You just ask him how much he wants and we can vote on it.
The 24th?
That still gives
Okay.
them a month.
All
Yeah.
right.
Gives one
So
month from today.
let, Clerk Jones, would you put that down, please? So what we're going to do, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and ask Clerk Jones to put it on the agenda, the closed session for the November 14th. And hopefully, we also don't have a very long, normally, there's not very much. Okay. Yeah, so, but then we do need Andrea to send us the self-evaluation of,
We can do it as soon as we can
as,
get it all.
yeah, by the 24th, on the 24th?
Later than the 24th of October.
No later than the 20th. Okay.
Don't kill him, man. Okay.
So
Don't
no
kill me.
items in October at all then, at this point?
Correct, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
So then we can just go ahead and deal with it then. That's doable.
But I
I
do-
just tried to start.
But Chair, at this
gonna get it.
particular moment, I agree with you that having the chair do it, that's fine. I know that Vice Chair Yearwood did it last year, and he's already expressed he didn't like it. Doesn't want to do it again, so we'll see
Well,
what
he'll have
happens under his term.
1
but-
year. When it's his turn, he might say, nope, I want you.
Exactly.
Which is fine.
None of you have been in
But-
negotiation with Patrick, okay?
I think some of them know.
Which
So
is fine,
The
I
other
think.
part too is as it stands right now, due to the appointment of Michael last year, he is right now considered the negotiator until we undo that. And so
Okay.
maybe that's something we do in October.
That's fair.
Yes,
Yeah.
let's do that.
We can do that
And then that
in
locks
October.
in the chair, not a person, the chair position
Whoever is the
going
chair.
forward.
Why would I still be the negotiator?
You
The
wouldn't.
chair.
You would still be because
but
you
why
were
would I still be
appointed, you were
considered-
appointed
oh.
last year as the negotiator for the district.
And you just stay
Oh,
on.
wasn't
Stay on,
just for
you were
that one thing.
perpetually going to be the
Oh, I
negotiator.
thought it was just for that one
Yeah.
thing and then I
No.
You
was
just
done.
stay on. So that's one of the reasons why I thought, hey, if we make it the chair, then that's good, because then everyone goes and it changes, and everyone gets to do what, do the process. So we'll just get that on the agenda for October. And then okay.
Is there any-
Thank you very much.
One quick question.
I needed your input, yeah.
So other than not having to do an ad hoc, is it possible for us to designate somebody on the board to compile all of our information beforehand so we can, I kind of like that thing that says, here's how we ranked them,
Well,
and how
here's,
they ranked them, and how he ranked himself. that
here's,
kind
here's a thing, which is really neat. You get the evaluation form. Your own, like me, I'll get my evaluation form, I'll put my number, and I'll put some of my notes. And when we go in to talk, we're going together, that's how we share it. Because that's basically what it is. And then we come out with one voice. In other words, you write your comments, they write their comments, and then when we talk about it, we'll say, okay, number one, what do you give him? And you'll say, well, I give him this because I'm thinking of this. Okay, next, what do you give him? So we do hear each other's, but it's not repetitive
of.
and it's
My
it's a
thought
lot
is
of
to streamline
work.
it by having that information already there so we
Yeah.
can just look at it.
And
So
you're
we're not, somebody's not writing down, well, he said 3, she said 2. Where do we match up and line up? So we'll see, we're gonna know things that we're gonna easily knock out.
You like the average is what you.
Remember last year we
Yeah,
did?
we'll get the average. You still can get the
But I'm
average.
saying, can we do
Somebody has to mathematically do
something
it.
prior
That's
to
the thing we
that,
won't have
prior to
if we
that
do it in
meeting
closed
compiling
Wait a
that
minute.
information?
Wait a minute. If we're sitting at the table and we're all saying to each other, number one, what's your choice? What's your number? What's your number? We got to calculate it. Ding, 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 ding. As we say, here's the average. All right. This is the average. And that's normally how it has to work because it's one voice.
Well, true, but we've seen staff's voice, we've seen Patrick give himself a 3, and the board give him a 2, and staff give him, a 2.5, because they've got some that gave him 3, some, that's what I think.
Then we decide.
Vice Chair, you were
All I
Yeah.
want to do is get some of the legwork out of the way before we go into that meeting. So if we had that information just already there, so we're not having to compile it during the meeting, that's what I'm asking about.
Okay.
Because I don't want this
mean,
to be a 2-3 hour closed session meeting.
I know, and the thing is, so are you telling me that what you want is,
I don't need to know everybody's comments
So
necessarily.
and as maybe if I can help with that, maybe this is how Andrea is used. Maybe your comments get filtered to Andrea. She compiles it and has it ready for you for the closed session.
I don't necessarily need the comments, but the rankings would be nice, so we kind of know where we
That's
all, where we
fine.
all agree, where we don't agree.
Yeah.
Where we know we're going to spend all of our time.
Right, so if you were to submit your electronic version of it, she can just copy and paste it into a master form. She can average the numbers that you all have, and the results of that is a compilation of all of the stuff that just gets filtered to Andrea. So you guys are working from that to reduce the discussion.
Or so all we're doing
Yeah,
is
exactly.
essentially just cutting out the ad hoc.
Exactly,
So we're just
exactly.
losing one
So
step.
Andrea is the collect-all of it
and
prior
we're
to the
not.
meeting.
Now, let me clear this. So, and then you want each of us to bring our 5, I mean, if we have any comments, who's, what, tell me, help me understand this. Andrea's
understand
going to
what?
fill out the thing. This thing about the comments
I don't
and
care
the
about, I'm
numbers.
talking about the rankings, just the
Oh,
rankings.
the rankings.
I don't, comments, if we see them, that's great, but the chart we had in the years past that said, board member 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Patrick, whoever, just so we see where we stand. I don't want to go into a meeting and start writing down, well, you said 1, you said 2, 1, and, oh, here's the average. I want that there when we start.
So what you're asking is for us to give our scores
Scores, comments, whatever you want to give to Andrea, let her, if she wants to put it in a big document, that's fine.
before?
That way we can see them, that way when you read yours, I can just see what you wrote, and I don't have to go, what did she say again? It's just gonna streamline it. I personally think it'll streamline it even more.
the closed session meeting.
Which is like Director Dan's listed in the past, that's what we did last year. Andrea took all the information, compiled it together, and made sure it was all,
I mean, if it's all a matter of a chart,
Ad hoc to do it, it's going directly from you independently to Andrea with your comments. She compiles the information, produces the master document for you to review at the closed session.
Correct.
Is that
Yeah.
what you're looking at?
okay.
That makes sense. I mean, that efficiency-wise.
It's like, for
She can do
example,
it if
so,
she has the time.
like,
I mean, that's what
we're
you did
making more
last year,
work.
so.
Like, for example, do you remember how the evaluation? worked?
I actually don't think that Andrea did all that work
No.
last year because the idea was that she
ad
would
hoc.
not be involved
Yes.
in
Yes.
the evaluation of her boss.
Yes.
So that work was done
then it was
By
done by
us.
me.
By us.
me and you.
And it didn't take a whole lot of time, it was copy and paste and plugging
Yeah,
numbers
yeah,
in.
but asking Andrea to be involved in her own boss's evaluation, I still regard as a poor practice.
Okay, so why don't we do this? Okay, how about we do it this way? On October, we're going to have the negotiator set. I will compile 1, 2, 3, each of our numbers. It's an easy Excel spreadsheet, right? And bring that or send it back to you, I don't care. If we give ourselves some deadlines in between, maybe say, hey, the week before, we all get it to me so I can put it in the Excel spreadsheet, and I can have it, with number 1, and Terry's name, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and her scores. Is that what would work? Okay. Then we'll do that, if that's what, yeah, because I don't think we brought Andrea in. It was always done by us.
It was, well, last
So-
year, Vice Chair Yearwood did it, I think.
Yeah,
Ms.
and it was
White had
so
done it
much-
every year prior to that, though.
Yeah, and it took so long. It took 3 months or something like that.
Well, I
the
think that's
process did, but
one
the work
practice
didn't.
we eliminated,
Yeah.
was having the HR director involved in
Okay.
her own boss's review. It's a
Okay.
bad practice, yeah.
Okay, so we'll do that. That's simple if you want, yeah. We'll have the Excel spreadsheet, we'll say this one, and under each, I can put like a box, 5 boxes, numbers.
Well,
That's good.
there's already a template out there somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, but it's not hard. It's not difficult.
Yeah.
It's not going to be difficult. I think what I can do is from that evaluation form, under it, have just
Yeah, all I did.
our names.
Yeah,
Yeah,
all I did was
okay.
copy and paste documents, comments. I didn't put people's specific names, though, but that's easy enough to do.
Okay, so that's good. So what we'll do is we'll get the evaluation form, we will get Patrick's self-evaluation, we will get the results of the evaluations by his management team, so we have it all together, and then we read it, and then a week before the meeting, at least a week
By the
before the
7th,
meeting.
or-
By the 7th, you send me all, and I'll put it in the Excel spreadsheet, so that we have it.
I think that'll.
Does that sound
I think it'll
right?
expedite the process if we have
Okay.
it already there.
Perfect. I think that'll do. Okay. Okay. I thought this was going to be fast. Well, no, this is good. This is good. I mean, we got hard work to do too. All right, so we're going to move on to anything else here? I don't think so. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Moved by Secretary Danzel, seconded by
I'll second.
Vice Chair Yearwood. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. We adjourn to the next meeting.